Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWAS. Finishing up, well, not finishing up. We still have Monday Night Football after this, but we're in NFL Week 15. We got 14 games on Sunday. Loaded NFL Sunday here. As far as this week, it's been a slow week for me. I haven't placed a ton of bets. I've placed 7 bets. I'm 6-1. Kind of a jack of all trades here. I hit an NBA bet. College football, I had Washington. I hit that. I had the Falcons in the over on Thursday night, so I picked up a couple units there. What was my loss? Oh, Oklahoma State. College basketball Saturday afternoon. I lost that one. But yeah, it's been a profitable week, just not a ton of volume for me. I'm still not comfortable placing NBA bets. I took a couple looks and I just couldn't find anything I was confident in. So we'll get there. I'm not trying to place bets for the sake of placing bets. I like to place bets when I perceived myself to have an edge. And at the moment, I'm looking at the NBA stuff and I don't feel comfortable. So keep looking. We'll get there eventually. Yeah. Sunday, 14 games. Let's get into it. I mean, is Cooper Rush worth 2.5 points? I would hope Quinn Ewers put up a decent stat line against Arizona State. If he didn't, we have a real problem.
You can say the same thing about Creighton. Okay, they had the one good game against Panthers at home.
When Toast talks about the kicking market, it's like some earth is flat shit. Andy, true or false, this is going to be a dog walking.
Dog walking. This is my dog walking of the day. I think it's going to be very ugly. Dog walking. I think this is going to be ugly.
Hey, get the sauce. First up, we got Arizona on the road at Houston. If you acted early on some of the rec books, you could have got a real good number on this one. Pinnacle opened it up at 10 or maybe 9.5. My chart starts at 10. At 30K limits, it looks like Houston got hit again at 10. It's up to 10.5 now. 50K limits. Let's take a look at Juice Reel. So I was trying to get an idea if we were seeing any buyback from sharp bettors on Arizona. Not really. I mean, you could see 9, 9.5, 10. What does it say here? 63% of the most profitable bettors on the app are taking Houston. If I bump it up to 10.5, it looks like it's split 50-50, but still 43% are still taking Houston at 10.5. There are a few that are taking Arizona. It actually looks like the worst bettors at the app are buying back on Arizona at 10.5. So now, still not seeing much buyback, even at 10, 10.5 on the Arizona side. In terms of the sharp bettors, everyone seems to be going Houston. All right, so we got Arizona on the road in Houston. Texans have now won 6 of their last 7, and the last 2 were huge. On the road in Indianapolis in what was a huge division game for them. Then they go on the road to Kansas City, primetime, beat Patrick Mahomes. Their only loss of their last 7 games was the Denver game where C.J. Stroud got hurt early on in the game. I think in the second, it might have been in the third quarter. He got hurt about halfway through that game, and Davis Mills finished it. That was the only game they lost, and they still had a good chance of winning that one. So yeah, vibes are high in Houston. 6-1 in their last 7 games. Now they're at home against Arizona, a game that you think is very winnable for Houston. And when you take into consideration the injury situation for this Arizona on both sides, honestly, but this offense, this is absolutely nuts. Look at the offensive line here for the Cardinals. No Will Hernandez, no Jonah Williams at right guard, at right tackle. Now, those aren't new. Both of those guys have been hurt. Jonah Williams has been out, I want to say 4 games now, something like that. And Will Hernandez has been out 2 or 3 games, something like that. So those guys, those are not new injuries. The guys on the other side of the offensive line, those are new. Paris Johnson Jr., Evan Brown, those are new injuries. So this Arizona Cardinals offensive line is missing 4 starters right now. In addition to that, there's no Marvin Harrison Jr. in this game. He's been ruled out. In addition to that, there's no Zay Jones. There's no Greg Dortch. There's no James Conner. There's no Trey Benson. So the Cardinals are missing 4 starters on the offensive line, their quarterback, 3 of their top 4 wide receivers, and their top 2 RBs. This is the most injured offense I've ever seen. I've been doing these YouTube videos for 5 or 6 years now. This is the most injured offense I've ever seen. This is absolutely crazy. And we just saw this Houston defense go on the road to Arrowhead against another injured offensive line in the Chiefs. Remember, the Chiefs are missing 3 starters on their offensive line right now. They absolutely dominated. They held the Chiefs to 10 points, 4.7 yards per play, success rate under 38%. That was in Arrowhead against Patrick Mahomes. Now they're at home against an even more injured offensive line, and it's Jacoby Brissett instead of Patrick Mahomes. If you take into consideration the injuries, I'm not sure what we're expecting Arizona to do here offensively in this game. On the season, they're 20th in success rate, 25th in EPA per play, and that was done with a full offensive line. Now they're missing 4 starters on that unit. The Houston defense, obviously, one of the best defenses in the NFL, as I'm sure you know. 3rd in success rate, 1st in EPA per play. In my opinion, the only path here to Arizona moving the ball and potentially scoring points in this game is a possible flat spot for the Houston Texans defense, which, by the way, it's not the craziest theory in the world. If you take a look at the Texans' recent schedule, I mean, Jacksonville, that was back in Week 10. Huge division game at Tennessee. Not as huge, but still a road division game. Home against the Bills. Huge game. That was a rematch from last year. On the road in Indianapolis in what was the biggest game of the year for Houston. Then on the road in Arrowhead. Sunday Night Football against Patrick Mahomes. Now you got a home game against Arizona. It's an NFC team. This is by far the least important game Houston's played in a while. So maybe they've won 6 of their last 7. They're caught fat and happy here. Take the Cardinals lightly. I suppose that's your path if you're expecting Arizona to score points here. But in terms of what we're seeing on paper, it's tough. This is a very injured offense on the road against a very, very strong defense. And honestly, it just keeps getting worse when you dig deeper into the matchup. One of Jacoby Brissett's strengths this year has been handling blitz packages. Got a pass rating over 104 against the blitz. He makes quick reads, gets the ball out quickly. Well, Houston never blitzes. They're actually dead last in blitz rate this year, and they're still 2nd in pressure rate. This front 4 is more than capable of generating pressure without sending any extra rushers. And against this injured Cardinals offensive line, Houston should have no problems generating pressure in this one without blitzing. Jacoby Brissett, 64.8 pass rating under pressure. Don't like that at all. And you take into consideration the pass rush. I very seriously doubt Jacoby Brissett's going to have a ton of time to work here in the pocket. There's probably not going to be time for downfield routes to develop. And who's even running them with no Marvin Harrison, no Dortch, no Zay Jones? So who's even running those routes? But I very seriously doubt there's going to be time for downfield routes to develop here, which means Jacoby Brissett's going to have to get the ball out quickly. Houston's defense happens to be 1st in the NFL in passer rating allowed to the short pass. It just keeps getting worse and worse here when you dig deeper into the matchup. Are we expecting Arizona to run the ball? Missing 4 starters on the offensive line. In their last 5 games, they're averaging 73.2 rush yards per game, 4 yards per carry, just over 34% success rate per rush. They're going to go on the road to Houston against that defensive front and run the ball with one starting offensive lineman. It seems pretty thin. Now, maybe you could say EJ Speed is listed as questionable, so Houston might be missing a linebacker. But remember, they've got Christian Harris in there. Christian Harris as the 4th linebacker. Christian Harris would be a starting linebacker on like 29 NFL teams. So even if EJ Speed doesn't play, which, by the way, he might even play, but even if EJ Speed doesn't play, they still got Christian Harris that could start. They still got 3 great linebackers, even if EJ Speed doesn't play. Yeah, I mean, look, there are some injuries to the depth of this Houston defense, so maybe if they're winning late, I don't know. In my opinion, there's nothing on paper that indicates Arizona's capable of moving the ball in this game. The only path is if you're thinking it's a flat spot for Houston defensively. And honestly, like I said before, I don't think that's the craziest theory to have. It is the least important game Houston's played in a while. So that's your path if you're thinking Arizona might move the ball in this game. Now, on the other side of the ball, based on the full season numbers, this looks like a close matchup. Houston's offense, 29th in success rate, 24th in EPA per play. The Arizona defense, 31st and 25th. But this Cardinals defense, we've been talking about this. They had that huge Monday Night Football win on the road in Dallas, and they played pretty well defensively in that game. In the 5 games since then, they've gotten absolutely lit up. Look at the Cardinals' defensive numbers from their last 5 games since that Dallas win. They're allowing over 35 points per game, 6.9 yards per play, over 55% success rate. I mean, you'd have to say that right now, Arizona has the worst defense in the NFL. As far as right now, I think they might have the worst defense in the NFL. Now, if you are looking for a reason to back Arizona or back Arizona's defense, you could look at their schedule and say, hey, maybe we cut this unit a little bit of slack. And that's fair. I mean, if you look at the Cardinals' recent schedule, it's kind of wild. Back in Week 6, they're on the road at Indianapolis. That was back when the Colts were hanging 35 points on everybody. So they're on the road at Indy when the Colts offense was hot. Then they play Green Bay, then a bye. Then on the road in Dallas, the Cowboys light everybody up. in that building. And by the way, they played pretty decent there. They played a pretty decent defensive game. They actually won on the road in Dallas. Then at Seattle, against San Francisco, against a 49ers offense that seems to have figured it out. Then Jacksonville, I suppose, isn't the most explosive offense, but that's still that's probably a playoff team there. Then at Tampa Bay, okay, finally they play a game against a bad offense. And then the Rams, one of the best teams in the NFL. So I suppose you could look at their recent schedule and say, hey, this Arizona defense has been through the gauntlet. The only bad offense they've played recently was the Bucs, and the final score of that game was 2017, and they actually were somewhat formidable defensively in that game. Now, it's pretty thin. This Cardinals defense it doesn't look good, and if you look at that Bucs game, yeah, they held the Bucs to 20 points, but Tampa still averaged 5.6 yards per play, over 48% success rate, so it's thin. But I think when we're talking about the Cardinals defense, we do have to acknowledge that they've been through the absolute gauntlet. Now they play the Houston offense, and I think we all can agree that the Houston offense doesn't really scare anybody. CJ Stroud's been back for 2 games now. The offensive numbers they don't look much better. In the 2 games since CJ Stroud came back, 5.1 yards per play, 41.7% success rate. Certainly not great. I mean, we have to mention, though, these are 2 road games. We're talking about CJ Stroud, a guy who's historically played better at home in Houston. So CJ Stroud's been back. They've only played road games. Also, we have to point out that these are 2 of the biggest games of the year. On the road against the Colts in what was the game of the year for the Texans. And then they go on the road to Arrowhead to play Spagnuolo and the Chiefs defense on primetime. So we should probably cut CJ Stroud a little bit of slack. He's been back for 2 games, and they were 2 huge football games. At home against the Cardinals defense, it's just a completely different environment here for CJ Stroud. This Houston offense is pretty much fully healthy right now. The offensive line's in good shape. You got Nick Chubb on the injury report listed as questionable. Other than that, they're good to go. And when we flip it over to the Arizona side, surprise, more injury concerns here. Still no Mack Wilson Sr. He's on the IR. Jalen Thompson, safety Jalen Thompson's been ruled out. That's a new one. Also, Max Melton, a guy who's been playing a lot of corner for him this year, he's been ruled out of this game. Remember, they're already missing Murphy Bunting and Starling Thomas. They've been out all year. So 3 of their top 4 corners are out as well. I guess if you're looking for a reason to back the Cardinals defense, you could say the pass rush is healthy. Josh Sweat is actually having himself a good year. I think he's got like 11 sacks on the year. Calais Campbell's still playing at a high level. Darius Robinson is healthy. So if you're looking for a reason to back this Cardinals defense, you could say the pass rush is healthy. And the Cardinals pass rush hasn't been that bad. I mean, they're 17th in the NFL in time to pressure. We know CJ Stroud has struggled with pressure his entire career. We know the Houston offensive line isn't exactly spectacular. So I guess there's a path there. You can say, hey, I don't really think the Houston offense is very good. Arizona, although their defense is bad, they are capable of generating some pressure. They could give CJ Stroud some problems. I suppose there's a path there. Also, Arizona runs a ton of 2 high safeties. Over 57% of their defensive snaps in 2 high. CJ Stroud, 76.4 passer rating against 2 high safety looks so far this year. So you could say, hey, the Cardinals are going to sit back in 2 high safety. They're going to sit back in coverage. They're going to generate some pressure on CJ Stroud. Houston can't run the ball. I mean, look at their last 2 games, 2.9 yards per carry. I was on the road against Indianapolis and on the road against the Chiefs defense. 2 very different environments than a home game against Arizona. So maybe they're able to run the ball here, but the Houston rushing attack isn't exactly a unit that scares me. And again, you look at the Cardinals defensive game logs on the year, they've been through the absolute gauntlet. Yeah, they've been getting run on the last couple months, but look at the teams. We just went through them. We don't have to go through them again. If you look at the first few weeks there at the top of this chart when they played the Saints, the Panthers, the 49ers early in the year, they were actually playing some good defense, and they were actually playing some good defense against the run. So, look, there's a path to get to Arizona. I'm not taking it. At this current number, it would only be Houston for me. It's at 9.5. The move was to get Houston early at -6.5. Unfortunately, I didn't get it. So if you were one of the people that got on Houston early at -6.5, I tip my hat. At the current number, it would only be Houston. I'd probably make the game 10.5. The Houston defense should be so dominant in this game. I wouldn't be surprised if Houston's defense scores a touchdown in this one. So yeah, Houston's defense is too good, and they should control the game with the defense. don't exactly love Houston's offense enough to lay a huge number like 9.5. So it's Texans minus 9.5 for me. Didn't bet this one. Next up, we got the Raiders on the road in Philadelphia. This one was at 10.5, bet up to 13, and that's where it's been. It's hitting at 12.5 or 13, depending on what sportsbook you're looking at. We're up to 50K limits here. All right, Raiders are on the road in Philadelphia. Eagles, man, 3 consecutive losses. They lost on the road in Dallas, then that ugly Friday night loss at home to the Bears, and then obviously the game we all just watched where they lost an overtime game to the Chargers out in SoFi. So 3 consecutive losses for this Philadelphia team. You hate to see it. No, I'm joking. Not going to troll the Eagles fans in the middle of this. But yeah, 3 consecutive losses for the Eagles. Got to say, though, this is the perfect get-right spot for the Eagles. And I'm not just talking about because it's a home game against a bad team. Obviously, it is a home game against a bad team, but that's not specifically why I think it's such a good bounce-back spot for them. I love the matchup for this Eagles defense. The Raiders, an absolute mess offensively this year. They're 30th in success rate, 31st in EPA per play. They have the worst rushing attack in the NFL. And based on what we've seen from the Eagles so far this year, it seems like that's the way to beat this Eagles team. To hand the ball off, slam it between the tackles, be the more physical offense, win the battles on the offensive line. And that's just not the Raiders, man. I mean, this offensive line is a mess. Colton Miller, it looked like there was a chance he was going to come back for this one. He has been ruled out. So still no Colton Miller, still no Jackson Powers-Johnson. Jordan Meredith, I don't even think he's a starter anymore. So they're trying out new pieces. I think Alex Kapp is now starting at center. So this offensive line is an absolute mess. Watching the Raiders try to run the football, it's been sad. I mean, in their last 8 games, they're averaging 2.7 yards per carry, under 27% success rate per rush. In their last 8 football games, they're averaging 48 rushing yards per game. 8. This isn't like a 2-game slump. We're talking about 8 football games, 48.4 rushing yards per game. Check this out. In those 8 games, they haven't had 75 yards rushing as a team once. Not once have they hit 75 yards. Not 100, 75. They haven't had 75 yards rushing in a game as a team since week 5. So, yeah, I mean, there's no other way to say this. This team just flat out can't run the ball. And like I said, that's kind of been what's emerging as the weakness of this Eagles defense. If you've got a physical offensive line, can slam it between the tackles, you can move the chains against this Eagles defense. But if you're going to let the Eagles defensive front win these battles up front, which every single defensive front wins their battles against the Raiders, you're going to have a real hard time moving the ball. We just saw it last week. The Eagles were on the road indoors in SoFi against the Chargers, another vulnerable offensive line. The Eagles defense was absolutely dominant in that game. They held the Chargers to 4.8 yards per play, under 38% success rate. Basically, the only plays the Chargers offense made was Justin Herbert using his legs, and I don't think Kenny Pickett's going to do that. This Eagles defensive front was absolutely dominant. They pressured Justin Herbert. I don't have it in front of me. I think it was 63% of his dropbacks or something wild. And even when Justin Herbert had a clean pocket to throw from, nobody could get open. That was on the West Coast, indoors at SoFi. Now they're back at home in cold-ass, nasty-ass, windy-ass Philly. Supposed to be 17-mile-an-hour winds. Obviously, 33 degrees. We're in December in Philadelphia. This is a nightmare for Kenny Pickett. You know he's not going to have run support because the Raiders can't run the ball on anybody. I just absolutely love this matchup for the Eagles defense. They should completely dominate this game start to finish. Now, we do want to give Kenny Pickett a little bit of credit here. He actually looked all right last week. He came in when Geno Smith got hurt. He was only in the game for 2 drives in the fourth quarter. They were down 2 touchdowns. He came in the game. Now, he looked good, and let's give him some credit, but 2 drives at the end of the game where Denver didn't even game plan for him. Completely different situation. And by the way, I mentioned how this game is outside in nasty-ass, cold-ass Philly in December. Well, this is a Raiders offense that's played pretty much their entire season indoors. Check this out. They've only played 2 games outside in the last 2.5 months. 2.5 months. They played 2 outdoor games. Want to know how the offense looked in those 2 games? Well, they scored 7 combined points in both of them. They got shut out in Kansas City, and they were held to 7 points on the road in Denver. So the only time we've seen this Raiders offense go outside in the last 2.5 points, they averaged 3.5 points per game. 3.5 points per game, 3.9 yards per play, success rate under 28%. I know there's no Jalen Carter here, but there was no Jalen Carter last week on the road in SoFi either. I expect the Eagles defense to be pissed off here coming off 3 consecutive losses. They should completely dominate this game on the defensive side of the ball, even without Jalen Carter on the field. Now, on the other side of the ball, obviously we're all concerned about this Eagles. Oh, I'm so concerned about it. I can hardly sleep. I'm joking. But we're all concerned with this Eagles offense. All kinds of problems going on. They're 27th in the NFL. The Super Bowl champions are 27th in the NFL in success rate, 16th in EPA per play. Matched up against a Raiders defense that doesn't look that great either, 23rd and 22nd. Now, there was some optimism that Lane Johnson was going to be back, and that would be huge. Adam Schefter actually tweeted out the record. The Eagles, since Lane Johnson joined the team, the Eagles with Lane Johnson on the field, 120, 62, and 1. Without Lane Johnson on the field, they're 15 and 27. So certainly this guy makes a huge difference, and there was optimism that he might come back for this game. Remember, they didn't put him on the IR. For those of you that are unfamiliar with how injured reserve works, so when your player gets hurt, you have a choice. You can put them on the IR, and it saves your team money. If you put them on the IR, though, they can't play for the next 4 games. So basically, you have a choice. Do we think this player is going to come back within the next 4 games? If not, throw him on the IR and save some money. The Eagles didn't put Lane Johnson back on the IR. So they thought he had a chance of coming back for this game, but obviously it looks like they were wrong. They probably should have put him on the IR. Obviously, hindsight is always 20/20. And then Lane Johnson on Monday tweeted out eyeballs, which led people to believe he was going to be back, but apparently it's a no-go because I'm pretty sure he has been ruled out. So no Lane Johnson returning for the Eagles, which is definitely a concern. But the Raiders defense is hobbled also. They just lost Kyle Blue Kelly, who's been, you could make an argument that he's been the best player on the defense outside of Max Crosby this year. That might be a stretch, but he's been really good for them. He's out for the season. Jeremy Chin might not even play. He's the team's second leading tackler. So Kyle Blue Kelly he leads the team in pass deflections, got 40 tackles, and Jeremy Chin's got over 100 tackles, second on the team in tackles. So I don't know if Jeremy Chin's going to play or not, but the Raiders defense is hobbled also. And I mentioned before, earlier in the season, the Raiders defense looked pretty strong. It looked strong against the run. This Raiders defense has been trending in the wrong direction for a while now. You look at the last 6 games, they're allowing over 25 points per game, over 47% success rate. The yards per play, yards per carry allowed look pretty good, but this team just can't get off the field. And, I mean, look at the Denver game last week. It's the perfect example. In the Denver game, here are the Broncos' drives. 14 plays, 9 plays, 10 plays, 14 plays, 19 plays, 6 plays. They only had 6 drives the entire game. 14, 9, 10, 14, 19, 6. So this Raiders defense just can't seem to get off the field. Saquon Barkley's shown signs of life the last couple of weeks. Look, I'm not expecting the Eagles offense to do a ton because the play calling's broken, the offensive line's injured. There's all kinds of issues with this Eagles offense. But the truth is, I think the Eagles defense is going to be so dominant in this game that they're going to win comfortably just from the simple fact that the defense is just going to control the entire game and the offense can hand the ball off. I think the Eagles can kick field goals to a cover here. So I did bet this one. I'm on the Eagles. I got minus 10.5. Looks like it's at, 12.5 now. If it's still under 13, I would still do it. So if you can get a 12.5 or better, I'm on the Eagles. I did bet this one. Next up, we got the New York Football Jets on the road in Jacksonville. This one was at 12.5, then 13, then 13.5. Now it's at 14. Money seems to be coming in on the Jacksonville side. Here we're up to 50K limits. The crazy part is, if you take a look at Juice Reel, 56% of the most profitable confirmed bettors on the app are taking the Jets. It's actually 59% of the worst bettors on the app that are taking Jacksonville, but we've seen pretty steady movement towards the Jacksonville side. The New York Football Jets on the road in Jacksonville, where vibes are high right now. The Jags have won 4 football games in a row, including what was the game of the year for Jacksonville last week. Obviously, Daniel Jones getting injured didn't really live up to the hype in terms of the quality of game that we saw. But it was a huge win for the Jags. Put them in firm control of the AFC South. They're now 9-4 in first place. 36-19 was the final score over the Colts. So, yeah, vibes are high with this Jags team right now. They're currently sitting at the 3 seed in the entire AFC conference, entire AFC. So yeah, things are going well for the Jacksonville Jaguars, but honestly, things aren't going too terribly for the Jets either. I know we don't perceive the Jets to be having a successful season, and they certainly got off to a terrible start, but you would think the blowout loss at home last week, 34-10 to Miami, you would think that the Jets are just a disaster right now. Based on what I was reading, it doesn't really seem like that. And in fact, Breece Hall even made some positive comments saying he believes in what Aaron Glenn's doing and he's seeing some changes. And then, look, we perceive the Jets to be one of the worst teams in the NFL, and they probably are. But this Jets team is 3-3 in their last 6 games. They covered the plus 13.5 against New England. They covered the plus 13.5 against Baltimore. They one blowout game where Tyrod Taylor got injured and Brady Cook was unexpectedly thrown in there. But yeah, things aren't going too poorly for this Jets team. They've shown signs of improvement. This isn't just a walkover team. In fact, look, the Jets are one of the worst teams in the NFL, but the way they're playing on the line of scrimmage, there's several teams that I would put the Jets above right now. Regardless, even if the Jets are showing signs of improvement, the question is, how can we count on them to score points here? Because I don't think this Jacksonville defense is getting enough respect right now. I mean, the Jags have been winning games like we just talked about. They've won 4 in a row. The offense hasn't even played well. I don't think the Jags defense is getting enough credit. In the last 4 games, they've allowed 13 points per game, 4.6 yards per play. And by the way, the 13 points per game, a bunch of that came in the overtime game against the Cardinals where they gifted them 4 turnovers. Without the turnovers, the points per game would be even lower than that. Yeah, this defense has been lights out recently. We do have to consider the opponents. They played the Chargers and that offensive line at home, then the Cardinals, then the Titans, and then the Colts with Riley Leonard at quarterback. So maybe we consider that they've played a fortunate schedule recently, but the Jags defense has shown us enough to earn our respect. This is a top 10 defense in the NFL. They're 10th in success rate, 6th in EPA per play, great against the run. Like I said, this is definitely a defense that demands our respect, and the Jets offense is not a unit that demands our respect. They're 25th in success rate, 27th in EPA per play. Now, the offensive line is healthy, and the Jets offensive line has played well this year. The rest, in terms of the skill positions here on the offensive side of the ball, Mason Taylor ruled out, which is a bummer. Garrett Wilson, I put him as doubtful in this graphic here. I don't think he's going to play, but I believe he's eligible to be taken off the IR. So I think there is a slight chance, but I don't think he's going to play. Tyrod Taylor's been ruled out. Justin Fields has been ruled out. Looks like it is going to be Brady Cook at quarterback. Josh Reynolds still on the IR as well. We saw Brady Cook last week when Tyrod Taylor got hurt. Didn't look pretty. He was sacked 6 times, I think. Got to keep in mind, he was thrown in there unexpectedly. The entire offensive game plan was tailored to Tyrod Taylor. In addition to that, the Jets also dropped 5 passes in the game. So, I mean, they catch those balls. His numbers could have looked a lot better. Regardless, I'm not drawing any conclusions about Brady Cook from one game where he wasn't even expected to be in there. Even if you believe in Brady Cook, though, which that's a big if, it is a rookie, it's tough to see the Jets consistently moving the chains here against this Jags defense. We just talked about it. The Jags defense, they're playing great right now. They're on the road in Jacksonville. They're completely healthy on this side of the ball, the Jags defense is. So you're not going to find much on paper that indicates the Jets will have success moving the ball in this game. I suppose you could say the Jags don't have any film on what the Jets are going to be trying to do here offensively with Brady Cook. So maybe they have the element of surprise. But yeah, you're not going to find much on paper. On paper, the Jags defense should dominate this one. On the other side of the ball, though, this matchup is pretty close, and the Jags offense actually hasn't looked very good. We'll talk about it in a second. On the season, they're 16th in success rate, 17th in EPA per play. The Jets defense 12th and 28th. We don't know the status of Walker Little or Parker Washington. Based on what I read, it seems like Walker Little has a good chance of playing. Parker Washington's a little more 50-50. But Cole Van Lanen is their 6th offensive lineman. He's been bouncing around. He started at guard when Makari got hurt. He started at right tackle when Anton Harrison got hurt. And he's been playing pretty well. So I wouldn't even be surprised if the Jags kept Little out and saved it. They got a huge game against Denver on deck. So I wouldn't even be surprised if Walker Little doesn't play in this game. And I also don't think it moves the needle because of how well Cole Van Lanen's been playing, their 6th offensive lineman. So the Jags offense is in pretty good shape. We might not see Parker Washington, but they're in pretty good shape. The problem is we perceive Jacksonville to be a run-first offense based on what we saw early in the year. You wind back to the first 3-4 games of the year, ETM was running the ball, Tootin was getting it going on the ground, and we were like, okay, the Jags can run the ball this year. They've been winning games, so it's kind of flying under the radar that Jacksonville's actually been struggling to run the ball recently. In their last 5 games, they have a 30% success rate per rush. That's not good at all. 3.9 yards per carry. Now, again, they've been winning games, so it's not really being talked about, but this Jags rushing attack has not looked very efficient recently. And the Jets defense, I know they got run on the last couple weeks. Played Atlanta, which is a surging rushing attack right now, and Miami, same thing. They've been running the ball on everybody too. Previous 3 games when Quincy Williams came back from injury, the Jets actually looked pretty strong against the run. 3.7 yards per carry, 28.4% success rate per rush. That was in the 3 games before those last 2. And Quincy Williams is playing, by the way. That's when we saw the Jets defense kind of turn things around when Quincy Williams came back from injury at linebacker. Tony Adams is also back for this Jets defense. So, look, I think the path is there to the Jets limiting Jacksonville on the ground. And when it comes to last week's game against Miami, I know it was ugly. Tyrod Taylor gets hurt. Brady Cook comes in. The Dolphins can't do anything. The final score of that game... All right, so the way that game went, Miami scored immediately. They hit on some explosive plays early. It was 21-0 in the first quarter. Achane ripped off a big run, and then Tua actually connected on a couple big throws. It was 21-0 in the first quarter. After 3 drives, the Dolphins had 178 yards of offense. 21-0 was the score of the game at the time. The rest of the entire football game, the Jets held the Dolphins to 4.2 yards per play. So, look, I'm not saying we ignore the first 3 drives. I'm just saying the Jets defense actually did a pretty good job for most of that game. They just got off to such a terrible start. I actually think the Jets are able to limit Jacksonville on the ground, like I said. Now, where I don't trust this Jets defense is in the secondary. So, at home, the weather's supposed to be all right. It should be a favorable matchup for Trevor Lawrence. Check this out. So the Jets defense has a chance to set an NFL record here. This is crazy. If the Jets do not record an interception in this game, so if they don't record an interception in this game, they will set an NFL record by being the only team in NFL history to start a season 14 games without a single interception. The Jets have 0 interceptions this year, and if they don't get an interception in this game, that'll set the NFL record, 14 games without a pick. Tell me that doesn't make you want to bet Trevor Lawrence to throw a pick so the Jets don't set the record. Sitting at plus 112. I'm not actually betting it. I just thought it was funny. But anyway, speaking of Trevor Lawrence, let's give him a little bit of credit. He looked pretty good in his last 2 games. Passer rating over 108, 236.5 passing yards per game. Handled pressure well. He deserves the credit. I'm not going to let those 2 games just erase everything we've seen up to this point. Remember, for most of this season, Trevor Lawrence has not played well. In the 5 games before those last 2, he had a 76.8 passer rating, was under a lot of pressure, struggling with the pressure. So I think the Jets are able to limit Jacksonville on the ground. And the question is, do you trust Trevor Lawrence to cover a 2-touchdown spread with his arm? And the answer to that is no. That's why I'm on the Jets here. I got a terrible number. Another thing to consider here for Jacksonville, look, I think the Jets defense is going to play well. Like I said, I think they're able to keep the Jags from running the ball. The scheduling spot, I mean, you got Jacksonville coming off the biggest game of the year last week against the Colts. Right after this, they go to Mile High to play Denver in what could be a battle for a first-round bye or home field in the playoffs. That's a huge game on the road in Denver right after this. Immediately after that, they go to Indianapolis again. And then they play the Titans in the last game of the year in a division game that could determine a tiebreaker against Houston because they split with Houston. So they have this game against the Jets, and then they have 3 much more important football games after this. So you got the Jets game sandwiched in between 4 huge games for this Jags team. And honestly, looking at the number, the Jags defense looks great. Jacksonville's playing great football right now. We're now pricing minus 13.5. We're pricing the Jags like the 2024 Ravens now, like the 2023 Ravens. They're laying 2 touchdowns. We just saw the Jets keep it within 2 touchdowns in New England. We just saw the Jets keep it within 2 touchdowns in Baltimore. The Jets are playing well in the line of scrimmage. Yeah, I'm on the Jets in this one. I'm on a terrible number. I got plus 12.5. Now, I had some bad injury luck. I placed this bet early on. Mason Taylor ended up getting ruled out. Maigoa, one of the linebackers, ended up getting ruled out, so I had some bad injury luck. I'm on a bad number here, but I do think the Jets make this one interesting. So it's looking like a bad bet, but I'm on the Jets on plus 12.5. Next up, we got Cleveland on the road in Chicago, and not a ton of action here. It's been at 7.5 on Pinnacle pretty much all week. We're up to 50K limit, still looking at 7.5. All right, we got Cleveland on the road in Chicago. You want to know how crazy the NFC is this year? So just a few days ago, last week, the Bears had the best record in the conference. They were the 1 seed. They had the best record in the NFC. Just a few days later, after one football game, the Bears are now in a position. They're in the 7 seed. They're now in a position where if they lose this game, they could very well be out of the playoffs. Oh, well, obviously, the season doesn't end, but they would be out of a playoff spot if they lose this game and Detroit wins. That's how wild the NFC is right now. They were just the 1 seed. As of right now, the Rams are the only team in the NFC that can clinch a playoff berth this week because they play Detroit. So if the Rams beat the Lions, they'll move to 11-3, and they'll give the Lions their 6th loss. So the Rams can mathematically clinch a playoff spot here in the NFC. No one else can. But yeah, the Bears, after sitting in the 1 seed just a few days ago, are now in a position where they're, I don't want to say must win, but they can't afford to take losses right now. The Bears need to win this game. They're at home against Shedeur Sanders, and let's give Shedeur Sanders some credit. He's playing pretty well. Definitely holding on to the football a bit too long, not exactly handling pressure well, but we kind of knew that coming in. That's kind of what we saw from him at Colorado last year. Man, when he delivers a throw from a clean pocket, he's got a ton of arm talent. He had a ton of arm talent coming out of college. He's got a pass rating over 134 when he throws the ball from a clean pocket. So, I mean, when he has a clean pocket to throw from and delivers a throw, he can put it where it needs to be. And you got to keep in mind, he's made 3 starts. 2 of them have been in nasty weather, too. Wind, rain, snow. So shout out to Shedeur Sanders. He is showing some promise. Obviously, ton of work to do. He really needs to work on how he handles pressure, decision-making, holding on to the football. But that's normal rookie stuff. We were saying the same things about Caleb Williams last year. So Shedeur Sanders is playing pretty well. My concern with the Browns offense is not actually Shedeur Sanders. This offensive line is an absolute mess. So if you remember last week, I took the Titans +4 because Teller and Conklin were out. So we're talking about the Browns offensive line. DeJuan Jones has been out. He's been out. I don't think he's played at all this year, maybe early in the season, but I'm pretty sure he's been out all year, the left tackle. Conklin and Teller were new injuries last week. So Conklin and Teller have played most of the season. They were out last week. They're out again this week. Pocic and Bitonio, they're new injuries. Pocic got injured in the Titans game. He's out for the year. So in addition to missing 3 of the original 5 starters, they just lost their center for the season, and their only remaining starting offensive lineman from the beginning of the year is Bitonio at left guard. He might not even play. He missed practice on Wednesday and Thursday. He did practice in a limited capacity on Friday, so maybe there's a chance Bitonio's able to play, but there's a realistic chance that the Browns are playing this game missing all 5 starters from their original offensive line. All 5. Absolutely wild. So normally when we're talking about a Bears game, I would talk about how I believe this defense is vulnerable to the run. In their last 5 games, they're allowing just about 5.2 yards per carry, over 48% success rate per rush. I've talked about this several times. So this is the weakness of this Bears team. They struggle against the run. But with the current situation with Cleveland's offensive line, do we trust them to go into Chicago and run the ball? Not to mention TJ Edwards is back from injury. If you remember, we talked about this last week. Bears defense was actually doing a much better job against the run early in the season when TJ Edwards was healthy, and then he got injured and they started getting run on again. Well, he's now back. He came back last week. Still no Tremaine Edmonds. Also, Kyle Gordon's going to miss this game. I actually think there's a chance Kyler Gordon misses the rest of the regular season. He might not be back towards the playoffs, but CJ Gardner-Johnson's actually been filling in that spot nicely. So they have CJ Gardner-Johnson now. Good news for the Bears. Tyreek Stevenson is back in the secondary. So Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson, I believe this is the first time those 2 corners have been on the field together all year. So some good news for the Bears defense. Now, look, this Bears defense hasn't been great this year. We mentioned they struggle against the run. They also struggle to generate pressure. They blitz a lot, but they don't generate consistent pressure. We just talked about Shedeur Sanders. He has great numbers when he throws them a clean pocket. So there might be a path here to Shedeur Sanders having some success through the air. What worries me is we're talking about Shedeur Sanders on the road in cold-ass, windy-ass Chicago. The Bears are first in the NFL in takeaways. These are a bunch of ball hawkers here on the Bears defense. And Shedeur Sanders, although he's been pretty good, he's shown some flashes, he also has a 4.8% turnover-worthy play rate. He has a tendency to put the ball in harm's way. So if we're talking about a game at Soldier Field, it's supposed to be 15 degrees, where Shedeur Sanders has a hobbled offensive line, he might not have run support. That spells turnovers to me. I wouldn't be surprised if Shedeur throws a couple picks in this game, especially if the Bears take a lead and Shedeur Sanders with no run support is forced to be in a position to drop back to pass a bunch with a hobbled offensive line in the cold and the wind. Yeah, I could see Shedeur Sanders turning the ball over a couple times. Now, what about the other side of the ball, though? We got Cleveland's defense, which is obviously elite. First in the NFL in success rate, fourth in EPA per play. Bears offense, 12th in success rate, 9th in EPA per play. And look at those rushing efficiency numbers for the Bears. Ben Johnson, man, this is so impressive. Remember, the Bears had arguably the worst offensive line in the NFL last year and one of the worst rushing attacks in the NFL this year. Ben Johnson, in less than a season, has the Chicago Bears as one of the most efficient rushing attacks in the entire league. They're second in the NFL in success rate per rush, fourth in EPA per rush. And if you rewind a few weeks ago, there was criticism. Well, I was throwing some criticism out there, not just other people, me as well, that the Bears were racking up these really nice-looking rushing numbers against some bad defenses. And that was true. They played the Commanders, they played the Giants, they played the Bengals, they played the Cowboys, played a bunch of bad defenses in a row. So I was like, guys, the Bears are running the ball, but let's not throw them a parade because they've seen all bad defenses. Well, they shut me up. They shut everyone up. Because look at their last 4 games. They've seen Minnesota, respectable defense, the Steelers, respectable defense, the Eagles, respectable defense, and the Packers, respectable defense. In their last 4 games against those 4 defenses, 4.6 yards per carry, over 49% success rate per rush, 165 rush yards per game. The Bears have one of the most efficient rushing attacks in the NFL right now. And you might be thinking, well, Kyle, who cares? They're playing Cleveland. They're not going to run the ball like that on Cleveland. And I suppose that's a valid concern, but keep in mind, this Cleveland defense is not 100% right now. They just lost their defensive tackle, Malik Collins, for the season. Last week against the Titans, that was the first game we saw the Browns defense play without Malik Collins at defensive tackle. And the Tennessee Titans went on the road to Cleveland and averaged 5.3 yards per carry, had 184 yards rushing in the game. Now, Tony Pollard ripped off a long run to make these numbers look slightly better than they were. But the Tennessee Titans were running the ball on the Browns defense in Cleveland. This Browns defense is not 100% right now, and it's not just Malik Collins. Their other defensive tackle, their first-round draft pick, Mason Graham out of Michigan, he's listed as questionable. He might not play either. He missed a couple of practices this week, and their star corner, Denzel Ward, he's been ruled out for this game. So this is not the normal Browns defense that we've seen for most of this year. They're missing key pieces. They're also on the road where the Browns defense is never quite as effective, although they're pretty good on the road as well. Now, obviously, we still have to worry about Myles Garrett. We still have to talk about the Browns pass rush against Caleb Williams. It's a concerning matchup because Caleb Williams, just like last year, he has a tendency to hold on to the football. 3.05 seconds. That's a long time. He has a tendency to hold on to the football. That's a concern against the Browns pass rush, which, as I'm sure you know, one of the best pass rushes in the NFL. And another thing about Caleb Williams, look at his numbers under pressure. 55.3 pass rating under pressure this year, just 4.4 yards per pass attempt when pressured, just like last year. Now, you might be looking at this graphic thinking, but Kyle, I don't get it. Caleb Williams has looked so much better this year. He looks so much more comfortable. But I'm looking at this graphic, and it looks kind of similar to last year. What's the difference? Well, the difference is right here. This Chicago Bears offensive line might be the best in the NFL right now. I know that's a bold statement. I'm not trying to make a hot take, but this Bears offensive line is generating a ton of push in the run game. Look at the pass protection. The Chicago Bears are first in the NFL in time to pressure allowed. No offensive line has given their quarterback more time to throw this year than the Chicago Bears. So, look, I know it's the Browns pass rush, but the way the Bears offensive line is playing right now, I still think they're able to provide Caleb Williams some pockets to throw from, and I think they're able to run the ball on the Browns defense as well. It looks like Rome Odunze has a chance to come back for this Bears offense as well. He was missed last week. He actually leads the team in receiving yards and touchdowns. Last week on the road in Lambeau was not Caleb Williams' strongest performance. 76.6 passer rating in the game. Now, let's give him some credit. Late in the game, when the Bears are down, he actually orchestrated back-to-back scoring drives to come back and tie the game. Then the Packers ended up scoring a touchdown to win. But Caleb Williams did make some throws and make some plays late in the game to get things going. But for the most part, he was struggling in that game on the road in Lambeau. But back at home, possibly Odunze coming back against an injured Browns defense, against a Browns offense that I think is going to be dropping back to pass, and it's a nasty spot for the Browns offense. I truly think the Bears win this game comfortably, but I actually didn't lay the 7.5. I bet the over at 38.5. I think we're going to see a pretty fast-paced game here. The Browns are 4th in pace. The Bears are 10th, so I think we'll see a pretty fast-paced game. Also, this is a Browns team that throws the ball a lot more than you think, and with Shedeur Sanders at quarterback, I think the Browns have a slightly different identity than we're used to seeing. I think we're going to see this Browns team drop back to pass here, and whether that results in Shedeur Sanders throwing touchdown passes or pick sixes, I think it results in points. So I'm on the over at 38.5. This one opened up at 39.5, and I was already leaning over. I had it more at 40.5, 41. So after it opened up, I passed. I was like, 39.5. I kind of like the over. It moved up to 40.5, and I was like, missed the boat. Sub at 40.5 now. Then the next day, it was back down at 38.5, and I took it. And you could still get a 38.5 right now. I think this is about 2 points too low. So I bet this. I'm on the over 38.5. As far as a side, I do lean Bears, but you should have got a 7 earlier in the week if you're betting the Bears. Don't take it at 7.5. Next up, we got Buffalo on the road in New England. This one was at 1.5, got bet down to 1. It's pretty much where it's been sitting on Pinnacle. We're up to 50K limits. We're still looking at New England +1 here. We got an AFC East showdown here. Buffalo's on the road in New England, and the Patriots are playing for the AFC East championship right here. If they win this game, they clinch, and they would snap Buffalo's streak of 5 consecutive division championships. So Patriots playing for the division. If the Bills win, it's still up in the air. The Patriots would still be a game up. Obviously, these two teams will have split, so we would have to see how the season plays out. But Patriots could clinch the AFC East with a win here. Now, in terms of making the playoffs, both these teams are in great shape. Even if the Bills were to lose this game, they would drop to 9-5. Obviously, Houston beat them, so Houston would have the tiebreaker over them, but the Colts don't even have a quarterback right now. The other 3 teams are the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Dolphins. They already have 7 losses, so the Bills would still be 2 full games up on those 2 teams in the loss column, and they beat Baltimore and Kansas City. So they have the tiebreaker against 2 of those teams. So regardless, even if the Bills were to, this goes for either team, it's a huge game in terms of the division championship, but in regards to these 2 teams making it into the playoffs, it's not a must win for either of them. Huge game, though. Obviously, New England would love this one. This is going to be the biggest game in Foxborough since 2019. I mentioned these 2 teams played earlier in the season. I'm sure you remember it. New England went on the road to Buffalo, won the game 23-20. So it's a possible revenge spot for the Buffalo Bills. And McDermott, Josh Allen, these guys have had some success in such spots. Since 2021, the Bills are 8-0 against teams that beat them previously earlier in the season. So in revenge games the same year, the Bills are 8-0 since 2021. So you certainly don't like that if you're New England. But we have to mention that this Patriots team is on an absolute warpath right now. They've won 10 consecutive football games. They're 10-0 in their last 10. They're also 8-2 against the spread. So not only are the Patriots winning football games, but they're exceeding expectations. The market continues to disrespect this team, and they continue to exceed expectations. Like I said, this place is going to be rocking. This is the biggest home game in Foxborough since 2019, probably. Now, when it comes to New England, probably the most popular talking point would be their strength of competition. And, I mean, it is a valid point. If you look at the Patriots' body of work so far, here's their schedule. Let me ask you, how many playoff teams have the Patriots played so far this year? It's kind of crazy. Maybe 3. I mean, Buffalo is 1. Carolina, Tampa, one of those teams is going to make the playoffs, so you got to give them 1 there. Maybe Pittsburgh. That's it. The Patriots' schedule consists of almost exclusively bad football teams. You take a look at New England's path to get here: the Raiders, the Dolphins earlier in the season when they weren't playing well, the Steelers, the Panthers, then you got the Bills, the Saints, the Titans, the Browns, the Falcons, the Bucks, the Jets, the Bengals, the Giants. Yeah, they've had quite the easy schedule. In fact, New England is dead last, 32nd in strength of schedule. Now, does that mean this team isn't good and they aren't deserving of credit? Of course not, but it certainly is something we need to mention. So, can New England complete the season sweep over Buffalo and clinch their first division title since 2019? Question is, do we think they can make stops? Buffalo's offense 5th in success rate, 3rd in EPA per play. New England's defense 20th and 8th. And I think it's important to take note. We talked about back in week 5, New England went on the road to Buffalo. They beat the Bills outright. It wasn't because they were generating stops. I mean, the Bills' offense in that game, sure, they were held to 20 points. They averaged 6.2 yards per play and 55% success rate in the game. The Bills' offense was moving the ball fine. They were moving the ball fluently against the Patriots' defense in that game. The story of that game was turnovers. The Bills turned the ball over 3 times. The Patriots turned the ball over only once. That was why New England won. Now, I shouldn't phrase it like that was why New England won. Drake May made some big plays, and they deserve to win. I'm just saying the story of week 5 when the Patriots beat the Bills in Buffalo, it wasn't the New England defense was generating stops or shut down the Bills offense. That wasn't the story at all. The story was more the Bills turned the ball over 3 times, a couple of them in crucial moments. So based on what we saw back in week 5, you'd think Buffalo is able to move the ball again on this New England defense, especially considering the run defense, which was the strength for them early in the season, kind of seems to be falling off here. There's some injuries we got to talk about as well. Last 4 games for New England, they're allowing over 4.8 yards per carry, over 49% success rate per rush. This run defense was the strength of the team early. Well, the strength of the team is the offense and Drake May, but it was the strength of the defense early in the season. They've been struggling against the run recently. Now, they are getting Tonga back on the defensive line, which is huge, so they are getting a piece back, but still no Milton Williams, and Robert Spillane got injured in practice, injured his foot just a few days ago in practice. He's going to be a game-time decision. He's the defensive captain and the leading tackler on the team. So, I mean, the Bills were able to move the ball in New England back in week 5. You would think they're probably able to run the ball in this one against a New England run defense that's not only dealing with injuries, but it seems to be trending in the wrong direction. Now, in terms of Josh Allen throwing the ball in this game, at first glance, it does seem like the Patriots tightened things up in the secondary. Remember early in the season, the Patriots couldn't seem to cover anybody. Christian Gonzalez was injured, and even when he came back, they got thrown on a few times. Patriots' pass defense was a problem early in the season, but you look at the last 7 games, and at first glance, it looks great. Just 5.7 yards per pass attempt allowed, under 194 passing yards per game allowed. So what's the concern here? Well, look at the opponents. Well, who's the best quarterback the Patriots have seen in this man? Seriously, who's the best quarterback the Patriots have seen in their last 7 games? Baker Mayfield? I mean, Cam Ward is playing better than Baker Mayfield right now. Tyrod Taylor, Joe Flacco, Jackson Dart, maybe? I'm not even making jokes. Who is the best quarterback the Patriots have seen in their last 7 games? So forgive me if I'm not throwing the Patriots secondary a parade for shutting down these quarterbacks. They've played a lot of subpar quarterbacks recently. We're talking about Josh Allen here, and it's not just Josh Allen. We're talking about Josh Allen with both of his offensive tackles back. Deion Dawkins came back last week. Spencer Brown, he's coming back this week. Remember, Josh Allen was under a ton of pressure missing those offensive tackles. It was the Houston game, and I think he was missing them in the Pittsburgh game as well. And the Bills' defense really won him that game more so than actually, they were running the ball well. But regardless, Josh Allen has both of his offensive tackles on the field healthy. You would think Buffalo is able to move the ball in this game. They were able to move the ball on them back in week 5. And based on everything we have here, you would think the Bills are able to move the ball and score points in this game. Obviously, just can't turn the ball over like they did back in week 5. The question is on the other side of the ball. And to be honest, I really don't know what I think about the matchup between the Patriots offense and the Bills defense. The Bills defense has one glaring weakness, and that's not just this year. It's been the weakness of this Buffalo defense for multiple years now. They struggle against the run. They're 22nd in success rate per rush, 31st in EPA per rush. The question is, do we trust New England's rushing attack to exploit that? New England's had problems running the ball all season. They're actually one of the least efficient rushing attacks in the NFL. They're 28th in success rate per rush, 30th in EPA per rush. Now, they are a bit healthier on this side of the ball. Left guard Jared Wilson is back. Kayshon Boutte was also banged up. He's been back for a couple games. Both running backs, Stevenson and Henderson, both healthy, both on the field at the same time. So they are healthier on this side of the ball. But, I mean, the Bills' defense against the run, are we trusting the last two games? Because out of nowhere, they just shut the run down. In their last two games, they're allowing just 3.2 yards per carry, 60 rushing yards per game. Success rate per rush down close to 32%. That's against the Steelers and the Bengals. I mean, not exactly elite rushing attacks, but the Bengals have been really efficient on the ground this year. And honestly, the Steelers kind of have as well. So do we trust this Buffalo run defense now? Remember, the first 11 games of the year, they were pretty consistently run on. They were basically getting run on every single game. So do we see these two games? We're like, the Bills can defend the run now. Really not sure. There's also injury question marks for the Bills defense. Now, the good news is Joey Bosa, I actually think they took him off the injury report. So it looks like Joey Bosa is going to be back. Still no word on Terrell Bernard and Christian Benford, who are two important pieces on this defense. They're both game time decisions. So even more question marks on the matchup on this side of the ball. The thing is, I kind of have mixed thoughts on this side of the ball because on one hand, I don't trust the Patriots rushing attack. I don't think the Patriots offense on paper is equipped to exploit what the Bills defense is weakest at. But on the other hand, how can I doubt this New England offense? It's been one of the most consistent units in the entire NFL this year. Through the first 6 games, 6.3 yards per play, 51% success rate, 25 points per game. The last 7 games, so the second half of the season, even better, 6.9 yards per play, 50.2% success rate, over 28 points per game. I mean, isn't it a little bit irresponsible to doubt this offense at home coming off a bye? I mean, you could probably make an argument they've been the most consistent offense in the entire NFL. And it's not like the Bills defense is anything spectacular. So on one hand, I don't really like the matchup for the Patriots offense. And on the other hand, I'm like, well, who cares about the matchup? This Patriots offense always scores. So I really don't know what I think about the matchup on this side of the ball. It's a really tough game, honestly, because I kind of want to lean towards the over. I think both offenses can have success in this one. The problem is we're dealing with two of the slowest paced teams in the NFL. The Bills are 32nd in terms of seconds between snaps, and the Patriots are 30th. So how can I take over 49 in what might be a really slow-paced football game? It's a really tough game. I'll say over. There's a flat 49 available. I'll say over for the video. In terms of a side, if you're asking me who I think wins the game, I guess Buffalo, but I gotta say, I mean, the Patriots have the best record in the NFL. They're at home, coming off a bye. They've won 10 football games in a row. They're at home, coming off a bye against a team they already went on the road to beat. Just that scenario alone, you would think the Patriots would be laying 3.5, 4 here. The fact that Buffalo is laying 1 on the road, and by the way, I don't know a single person on New England. Everyone I talk to is on Buffalo. Look, gun to my head, I guess I think Buffalo wins this game. I guess I like the matchup for Buffalo slightly better, but I got to say, it's kind of shaping up to look like New England might be the most disrespected team in the history of the NFL. They have the best record in the league. They're at home coming off a bye. They're looking like the most, and by the way, no one's betting them. Like everyone I talk to is taking Buffalo. Now that's not an adequate sample, but yeah, I can't bet the Bills here. I'll say over for the video, but I actually don't have a bet on this game. Next up, we got Baltimore on the road in Cincinnati. This one was at 2.5. Looks like the Ravens side got hit at Pinnacle at 20K limits. We're up to 3 now, 50K limits. You take a look at Juice Reel at 2.5 or lower. What does it say here? 76% of the best confirmed bettors on the app are taking Baltimore. But watch what happens when I switch to 3 here on Juice Reel. If I go to 3, everyone seems to be buying. We're talking about 79% of the most profitable confirmed bettors on the app taking Cincinnati. So even though at the time of recording, it looks like it has mostly moved up to 3, wouldn't be surprised if we get closer to kickoff when they up this to 100K limits, 200K limits. Wouldn't be surprised to see this get bought back down to 2.5. It seems like some sharp bettors are starting to buy on the Cincinnati side. All right, Cincinnati on the road in Baltimore. Ravens get their shot at a rematch. We all remember what happened Thanksgiving night. Joe Burrow comes back. Bengals win comfortably, 32-14. Probably important to point out, though, the Bengals won that game comfortably, and I'm not saying they didn't deserve to win or anything, but the turnover battle was 5-1, And if you actually look at the efficiency numbers from the game, I mean, Baltimore was moving the ball more fluently than Cincinnati was. The Ravens averaged 7 yards per play in that game, over 43% success rate. Cincinnati was 4.9 and under 42%. So Baltimore's offense was moving the ball more fluently. The story of the game was 5 turnovers to 1. Now, again, I'm not trying to say the Bengals didn't deserve to win. I mean, protecting the football is a huge part of the game. I'm just saying it's not like Joe Burrow came back and was just cooking on the Ravens defense. That's not how this went at all. Unfortunately for Baltimore, they followed that loss up with another division loss to the Steelers. So the Ravens are now a game back in the division. And look, they still play the Steelers again in Week 18, but the Steelers have a better division record. So as it stands right now, the Steelers would have the tiebreaker even if Baltimore beats them in Week 18. Baltimore would need Cleveland to beat the Steelers later in the year. So yeah, the Ravens, that was a tough loss to Pittsburgh. That was one they really needed to have, and it puts Baltimore in a must-win situation, kind of. They wouldn't be mathematically done if they lost this one, but they'd be in really tough shape if they lost this game. So yeah, this is a must-win for the Ravens. It's a must-win for Cincinnati also. The Bengals aren't even mathematically eliminated yet, so loser of this game, season might be over. I think most would argue that Cincinnati's season is already over, but mathematically it's not. So huge game here in the AFC North. It's set to be the coldest game in Baltimore Ravens history, according to Ryan Mink, who's an editor for this was on BaltimoreRavens.com. I didn't personally go and check the data. I'm taking this guy at his word, but it's set to be the coldest game in Baltimore Ravens history. We're looking at 11 degrees with wind chills below 0 here. So it's going to be ice cold for Baltimore. Like I said, the coldest in the history of the franchise. So let's get into the matchup. We'll start with the Ravens offense against the Cincinnati defense, and I think most would agree Baltimore has the edge on this side of the ball. 19th in success rate on the year, 23rd in EPA per play. Now, we obviously saw a chunk of the season without Lamar Jackson at quarterback. That might be skewing these numbers a bit. Cincinnati, dead last in success rate, dead last in EPA per play. Now, it did look like Cincinnati was showing signs of life on this side of the ball. In fact, when I first looked at this game, I was leaning under because I was like, hey, this Bengals defense is better than people think. I'm not really sure if that was an accurate take. They gave up 8.1 yards per play, 64.8% success rate last week on the road at Buffalo in the snow. In the previous 3 games, they were playing better defensively, but it wasn't because they were really generating stops like that. They were still allowing 6.4 yards per play, over 48% success rate in those 3 games. The EPA per play looks good because they were forcing some turnovers. They made some big plays defensively, but it wasn't good, consistent defense. They made some big plays on the defensive side of the ball, which may or may not be sustainable. Now, Cincinnati's defense is in pretty good shape for this one. There's no Trey Hendrickson. There's no Cam Taylor-Britt. Neither of those guys have played in a while. So we're going to see the same Bengals defense in this one that we have been seeing. So do we expect Baltimore's offense to move the ball fluently in this one like they did a couple weeks back? You would have to lean towards yes on that one. Baltimore not exactly lighting up the scoreboard, but they are moving the ball. 5.9 yards per play, 46% success rate in their last 5 games, just 21.8 points per game. And look at the EPA per play. Turnovers, dumb mistakes. I mean, this Ravens offense continues to shoot themselves in the foot. But in terms of just moving the ball, they're moving the ball. They're moving the chains. I really don't know what I think about Lamar Jackson right now. I mean, part of me wants to say, look, this guy's a multiple MVP. He'll bounce back. But we are talking about 5 straight games now with a pass rating under 70, 197 passing yards per game, struggling with pressure, just so uncharacteristic. It's almost the opposite of what we've seen from Lamar Jackson the last few years. So, look, I don't think the Bengals defense is very good. I think Baltimore can run the ball in this one. The offensive line is completely healthy. They might not have Rashad Bateman on the field, but for the most part, the Ravens offense is in good shape. Lamar Jackson should have run support. He should have clean pockets to work with. I don't see any reason to doubt the Ravens offense here, barring they turn the ball over another 11 times. Baltimore should be able to move the chains and put points up in this game. Now, on the other side of the ball, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. We're talking about Cincinnati's offense against Baltimore's defense. On the year, Cincinnati 14th in success rate, 19th in EPA per play. The Baltimore defense also 14th and 19th. So these two units dead even according to the season-long numbers. Now, Cincinnati's offense, if you look at the final scores of the last 2 games, you'd think, Joe Burrow's back and Cincinnati's lighting it up. And I mean, that was true last week on the road in Buffalo. 6.3 yards per play, over 56% success rate in the snow. Excellent game offensively for the Bengals. But the Week 13 game on the road in Baltimore where they beat the Ravens, we just talked about this. They weren't moving the ball that fluently. 4.9 yards per play, under 42% success rate. No T. Higgins in this one. He's been ruled out. And that concerns me because we saw what Baltimore did in the Week 13 game. They played a lot of man coverage. They put an extra set of eyes on Jamar Chase. And Cincinnati, without T. Higgins on the field, they don't have a ton of weapons to beat the Baltimore DBs. Remember, the Ravens have a good secondary. So I would imagine we're going to see the Ravens do the same thing in this one. They're going to play a lot of man coverage. Now, they do struggle to generate pressure, so Joe Burrow should have some clean pockets to work from in this game. But if Jamar Chase is double-teamed or has a safety over top on him, who on the Bengals roster with T. Higgins out do you expect to beat these Baltimore DBs? This Ravens secondary is very good. The injuries, the season-long injuries, are on the defensive line, which is why I don't exactly trust the Ravens against the run. And Cincinnati has been pretty efficient on the ground this year, so the Bengals will probably try to run the ball a little bit in this game, but I think they're going to struggle to move the ball in this one, just like they did back in Week 13. As long as Lamar Jackson doesn't turn the ball over a baker's dozen times in this game, I would imagine the Ravens win this one. I didn't bet it, but I think Baltimore minus 2.5 has to be the play here. I also don't hate an under because I think the Ravens defense can play well. The reason I haven't moved on this one is I think the range of outcomes for Baltimore's offense is huge. I wouldn't be surprised if Lamar Jackson shows up and the Ravens offense looks back against a bad Cincinnati defense. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens win this one 49-21. I also wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens win this one 24-21. So I think Baltimore minus 2.5 would be my favorite pick in the game. Looks like it's a little juiced heading towards 3, but it hasn't touched 3 yet. I would imagine they're getting some Bengals money if they put it up to 3. So Baltimore minus 2.5. I'll lean towards the under, but I'm not touching the total. There's a chance I add Baltimore minus 2.5. As of right now, it's just Baltimore pass. Next up, we got the Chargers on the road in Kansas City. This one was at 4, then 5, then up to 6. Still sitting at 6 at Pinnacle. We're at 50K limits. Take a look at Juice Reel. Everything 5.5 or lower. Looks like 52% of profitable bettors on the app were actually taking the Chargers, but it was pretty split. If you up it to 6 or higher, you could see 79% of the best confirmed bettors on the app taking the Chargers. Actually, 79% of the worst bettors on the app also taking the Chargers at 6 or 6.5. All right, we got the Chargers on the road in Arrowhead and Kansas City in a must-win situation to the maximum. So right now, the Chiefs are sitting at 6 and 7, and they wouldn't technically be mathematically eliminated with a loss here, but to give you an idea, currently Kansas City's chances of making the playoffs are estimated at 12%. If they lose this game, it drops to less than 1%. So yeah, I would imagine if Kansas City drops to 6 and 8, it's about time to put a bow on this season for the Chiefs. Meanwhile, the Chargers are still very much alive in the AFC West race here. Remember, the Chargers beat the Broncos earlier in the season. They're one of their 2 losses, and the Chargers still played Denver in Week 18. And the Broncos, they play Green Bay, then Jacksonville, then they go to Arrowhead before playing the Chargers. So it's very possible that Week 18 will be for the AFC West division. Now, the Chargers have a bit of a tough schedule themselves, and with that offensive line, they could drop some games also. But yeah, the Chargers are still very much alive in the AFC West race. Kansas City in desperation mode, as we just talked about. They've now lost 4 of their last 5 games, and their only win was the game against the Colts. They had to come back from down double digits in the 4th quarter to force overtime and win this one. So it could even be 5 in a row if they didn't get that miracle comeback. The Chiefs are just 1 and 6. This is crazy. Kansas City 1 and 6 in 1-score games this year. It's just the opposite of what we've seen from the Chiefs in the last few years. They're losing these close games. Remember 2 years ago where the Chiefs didn't even look good, but they just won every single close game? It's like the complete opposite of that. Kansas City 1 and 4 in their last 5 games. Meanwhile, things with the Chargers are looking all right. They've won 5 of their last 6. They had that collapse on the road in Jacksonville. Bounced back pretty nicely. Had the comfortable win over the Raiders, and then the overtime win, really gritty overtime win against the Eagles. Harbaugh was pretty fired up about that win. He said in the press conference, wonderful feeling of winning and the thrill of victory. I put it in the discussion of the birth of my 7 children, my marriage. It's in the same conversation. Now, he said it laughing. I think he was making a joke, so this is really nothing. I just thought it was funny. Anyway, let's talk about this matchup. Justin Herbert against Patrick Mahomes. So as I'm sure you know, Patrick Mahomes has had the upper hand here. So these numbers, these are not Chargers versus Chiefs. These are specifically games where both Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes play. Mahomes 7-2 lifetime against Justin Herbert, but Herbert's 6-2-1 against the spread. So the Chargers, for the most part, have kept these games close. In fact, the last 4 Chargers-Chiefs games that we've seen have all been decided by 1 possession, and that includes Week 1 this year where the Chargers beat Kansas City. Final score was 27-21. That game was in... I don't even remember where that game was. Brazil, I think, or Spain? Was that Spain? I don't remember. It was it was not here. It wasn't in SoFi. I know that. Yeah, Chargers won 27-21. Chargers looking to sweep the Chiefs this year for the first time since 2013 when Phil Rivers was playing quarterback against Alex Smith. That's what was going on the last time the Chargers swept the Chiefs in the season. In terms of that first game, there wasn't a whole lot of defense being played here. Chargers averaged 7.4 yards per play, over 62% success rate. That's wild. The Chiefs defense did nothing. They could not slow down Justin Herbert at all. Now, the Chiefs were moving the ball right back, 6.5 yards per play, over 49% success rate. Wasn't a ton of defense being played in that Week 1 matchup. So will we see the same sort of matchup here now that we're in Week 15? The concern for both these teams is the offensive line right now. We'll start with the Chargers offense. On the season, they're 17th in success rate, 20th in EPA per play. Chiefs defense 16th and 18th. Unfortunately for this Chargers offense, they had finally found an offensive line combination that they liked. So Week 13 against the Raiders, they put Sawyer at left tackle. They put Pipkins back in the starting lineup at right tackle. And then Bozeman, Becton, and Zion Johnson. It was their 8th combination on the offensive line. And the offensive line actually played well in that Raiders game. In fact, they gave the game ball to the offensive line. And there was some optimism there. Like, okay, the Chargers have finally found a combination on the offensive line that they can count on. They go into the Eagles game and Pipkins gets hurt 20 snaps in. Looks like he's not going to play in this one, which means probably going to see Bobby Hart or Trevor Penning at right tackle for this one, which means when we saw the Chargers moving the ball effortlessly on the Chiefs back in Week 1, both offensive tackles that played in that game will not be in this one, because not only was Pipkins playing, but remember, Joe Alt was still on the field back then. Quentin Johnston also on the injury report listed as questionable. Chiefs dealing with some injuries themselves. I believe Nick Bolton has been taken off the injury report. I still have him listed as questionable, but he's going to play. Trent McDuffie, though, looks like he's not going to play. I think he's got a hyperextended knee or something. He's still listed as questionable. He hasn't been ruled out, but from what I'm reading, it looks like McDuffie is not going to play. The question is, will Justin Herbert have enough time to even exploit a missing corner in this one? Last week was crazy. Check this out. So Justin Herbert was pressured on 26 of his 41 dropbacks. 26 of his 41 dropbacks last week against the Eagles. I would imagine Kansas City and Arrowhead's going to do the same thing here. Chiefs top 10 in blitz rate, pressure rate, time to pressure, the whole 9 yards. This is a good pass rush. Now, Justin Herbert's handled the blitz well this year. He's handled pressure well this year. But it doesn't matter if you're the best quarterback in the NFL. If you're pressured on 26 out of 41 dropbacks, there's just not a ton you can do. And this Chiefs defense has been pretty solid. They had that one game where they got lit up on the road in Dallas. Dallas kind of lights everybody up in that building. You look at their last 2 home games, they played Indianapolis and Houston, held them to 4.9 yards per play, under 38% success rate. I would imagine the Chiefs defensive front has no problem absolutely bullying this Chargers offensive line, just like the Eagles did last week. The question is on the other side of the ball. So the Chargers defense has been excellent. In their last 6 games, they're allowing 5.2 yards per play. Under 44% success rate actually isn't great. Just 18 points per game. We do have to consider the opponents here. They played Minnesota, whose offense has been terrible all year. They played the Titans. No caption needed there. The Steelers have had offensive problems this year. The Jags are powered by their defense. That offense isn't anything crazy. Then the Raiders, arguably the worst offense in the NFL. And then the Eagles, who look terrible offensively. So the Chargers defense, since they got Henley back, since they got Perryman back, since they got Mack back, they've been excellent. They've been awesome the last 6 games since they got healthy. we also have to consider that they haven't seen a ton of competition. Now, that brings us to the question, though, how good do we think this Chiefs offense is right now with this offensive line? Because this is absolutely crazy. So just like last week, there's no Josh Simmons, there's no Jawan Taylor, there's no Trey Smith. 3 starters on the offensive line are out in this one, and it gets even worse because Ethan Driscoll and Wanya Morris are also out. Those are 2 backups that would be starting if they were healthy. So the Chiefs, check this out. So the Chiefs in this game are starting their 3rd and 5th offensive tackles on the depth chart. The 5th one, he's an undrafted rookie making his first career start. I think that's at left tackle, an undrafted rookie making his first career start against Khalil Mack. And then at guard, they have Mike Caliendo, who's technically the 4th guard on the depth chart. So the Chiefs' offensive line is an absolute mess right now, and it was on full display last week. The Houston Texans bullied the Chiefs on the line of scrimmage. 4.7 yards per play, under 38% success rate. That's at home in Arrowhead. Now, the Texans are the best defense in the NFL and probably the best defensive line in the NFL. The Chargers are not the Texans, but in terms of their defensive front, they're fully healthy, and they're still pretty good up front. You got Mack, Deshaun Hand's healthy. They got talent in that front 7. So even though they're not quite the Houston Texans, I still think the Chargers defensive front is able to bully the Chiefs' hobbled-ass offensive line in this one. We just saw the Chargers defensive line winning the battles last week against Philadelphia, who also has injuries on the offensive line, although it's pretty much just Lane Thomas. We just saw the Chargers take advantage of a matchup like this. The Chiefs' offensive line is way more injured than the Eagles is. So, look, I love the matchup for the Chiefs defensively, but I also like the matchup for the Chargers defensively. Mahomes has been great against the blitz, but just like the Houston Texans, the Chargers don't really blitz much. They're able to generate pressure without sending extra rushers, so I think they're able to get pressure on Mahomes without blitzing, just like the Texans did. Not sure if I trust Kansas City to run the ball with a hobbled offensive line. This is a really tough matchup for both offenses here. I think both defenses should be dominant. It's cold. I think we're going to see a defensive game. I don't trust the Chargers offense to do much here, but how can you lay 6, especially in a series where we've seen so many close games? It would only be Chargers here at +6. I don't hate an under, but it's super low for Mahomes versus Herbert. It's at 41.5. I see a flat 42 at circa, but give me Chargers +6 and no, not the under, just Chargers +6. I haven't bet this one as of right now. Next up, we got Washington on the road to play the Giants. Not a ton of action here. Opened up at 2.5. We're still sitting at 2.5. We're up to 50K limits now. Take a look at Juice Reel. In terms of the best confirmed bettors on the app, pretty split. 55% on the Washington side, 45% on the Giants side. In terms of the worst confirmed bettors on the app, 62% on the Giants side here. All right, Washington is on the road at MetLife in a game that virtually means nothing. Neither of these teams are in playoff contention, as I'm sure you know. We do have a NFC East division rivalry here. And after years of the Giants dominating this rivalry, the Giants always used to beat Washington. Even when the Giants were terrible, they would still find ways to beat Washington. I think they were like 13-3 over a 16-game span against Washington, and that includes some years where they were awful. So the Giants always had the upper hand in this head-to-head rivalry, at least in recent years. That seems to have come to an end because Washington's 3-0 in their last 3 games against the Giants, 3-0 against the spread. Now, I know it wasn't the most impressive showing for this Washington offense last week on the road in Minnesota, and I should know I had over 41.5 in this game. I actually like this bet a lot. Washington did not pull their weight. They got shut out. 31-0 was the final score. I feel like we got to cut this Washington offense a little bit of slack. You look at their last 6 games, they're averaging less than 14 points per game, which is terrible. They're averaging 5.5 yards per play, over 48% success rate. So this offense is moving the ball. They are moving the chains. The final scores just don't necessarily reflect that. And look at the opponents. The Chiefs in Arrowhead, Seattle, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Detroit, Miami's playing great defense. Denver, one of the best defenses in the NFL. And then the Vikings defense in Minnesota. So I think we have to cut this offense a little bit of slack here. They've been through the absolute gauntlet in terms of the defenses that they've seen. The Giants defense does not fit that description at all. In fact, this is going to be the worst defense the Commanders offense has seen in forever. The Giants defense on the year, 29th in success rate, 30th in EPA per play. They are absolutely useless against the run. In fact, I think they're on pace to break some records in terms of the worst run defenses we've ever seen. They're dead last in success rate per rush, dead last in EPA per rush. And Washington's offense, despite the schedule, despite major injuries, they're still top half of the NFL in terms of efficiency. They're 9th in success rate, 14th in EPA per play. Now, no Jaden Daniels in this one. Also, Deebo Samuel is on the injury report listed as questionable. But I got to say, at least right now, with Jaden Daniels dealing with an injury, I think we can agree that Washington's offense is probably better right now with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. I mean, Washington's offense has been better in the games Marcus Mariota starts this year. In the Jaden Daniels games, they're averaging 18 points per game, 5.9 yards per play, 52% success rate is still solid. But you can see pretty much all the numbers are up in the games that Marcus Mariota starts. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying Marcus Mariota is better than Jaden Daniels, nothing like that. I'm just saying right now, with Jaden Daniels coming on and off the injury report, clearly not 100%, I think right now the Washington offense is better with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. He's playing in a game where he should most definitely have some run support because, like I said, I don't know if we've ever even seen a run defense as bad as the New York Giants. In the last 7 games, they're allowing over 6.6 yards, but that's so crazy. 7-game sample, too. It's not like just a couple bad games. Over 6.6 yards per carry, 48.9% success rate per rush, over 177 rush yards allowed per game. They're also still dealing with some injuries. Kayvon Thibodeau, he might even be done for the year. Nunes Roches on the defensive line, he's going to miss this one. McFadden's been out the entire season. That's not new. But now Dexter Lawrence has been added to the injury report. He must have got hurt in practice. He wasn't even on the injury report. He popped up on Thursday with a hamstring injury. So they might not even have Dexter Lawrence in this game. This is already the worst run defense in the NFL. This is already one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They might be missing what is probably their best player on defense. So I would imagine Washington's able to run the football in this game. I think Mariota can make some throws as well, weather provided, which is another thing we got to talk about the weather here. But yeah, I think Washington's offense is going to move the ball because they're undervalued and the Giants' defense is terrible. So I like Washington to move the ball in this game. And on the other side of the ball, I like the Giants to move the ball right back. This Giants offense, well, we know the Giants are a terrible team, but their offense isn't terrible. They're 22nd in success rate, 12th in EPA per play, matched up against a Washington defense that's pretty much been as bad as the Giants defense has. Washington's 28th in success rate, 31st in EPA per play. They're more so worse against the pass. They've been better against the run than the Giants, but in terms of overall defense, they're right down there in terms of worst defenses in the NFL, right next to the Giants. Giants offense is completely healthy with the exception of Neighbors and Scattaboo, who are out for the year, but the offensive line's completely healthy and they've played really well. Since Andrew Thomas came back from injury, I want to say week 4, since Andrew Thomas came back from injury at left tackle, this Giants offensive line has been great. They should be able to run the ball in this game against a Washington defense that's struggled against the run. The secondary's also really struggled. They're missing Lattimore and Amos, 2 of their top corners. Lattimore actually hasn't been playing well even when he's back. They're also missing Jonathan Jones, another one of their corners who's not pictured in this graphic. So Washington's secondary is a mess. They're really thin at corner. Should be a really good matchup for the Giants offense at home. And like I said, the Giants offense has played pretty well. They're losing games. The defense is terrible. They can't stop the run. If you just look at their offensive numbers from the last 8 games, 6 yards per play, over 47% success rate. Those are great offensive numbers. It's a very efficient offense, and they've been pretty consistently moving the ball. And Washington's defense, the exact opposite. In their last 8 games, they're allowing 7.1 yards per play, over 56% success rate. So I think Washington can move the ball in this game, and I think the Giants can move the ball right back. I did bet the over in this one. Spoilers. The weather makes it a bit interesting. We should see some snow. It's 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, so it's going to be a snowy, windy day. We should see a pretty fast-paced football game based on what we've seen so far this year. In terms of seconds between snaps, Washington is 12th. The Giants are 9th. The weather definitely is a little bit of a wild card thrown in here. I need a snover. I'm on 46.5. I did bet the over. I knew there was a chance of snow. The wind is a little bit of a wild card. I didn't know it was going to be this windy, so hopefully the quarterbacks are still able to make some throws. But regardless, I think both teams can run the football in this game. You know how these snowy games tend to see some explosive plays. I'm on the over. Give me a over here, 46.5. Next up, we got Indianapolis on the road in Seattle. This one was at 10.5, 11.5, 13.5. I actually think it's still at 13.5 at Pinnacle at the time of recording. We're up to 50K limits. Looks like a couple sports books have upped it to 14, but for the most part, seeing still 13.5. Was trying to get an idea if we're seeing any sort of buyback on the Indianapolis side at 14. You could see anything 13.5 or lower. It's all Seattle. 90% of the best bettors on the app on the Seattle side, 100% of the worst bettors on the app on the Seattle side. If you make it 14 and 14.5, you could see maybe it's a little more split, but no, not a ton of action on this game. All right, we got the Colts on the road in Seattle, and I guess this is real. This isn't a publicity stunt. I'm reading there's actually a chance Phillip Rivers starts this game at quarterback. I thought when the news first broke, and obviously everyone was yapping about it, and you know how NFL media is, they'll talk about anything. I thought it was just, hey, they were just filling out the roster. The guy knows the playbook. In a pinch, you need a guy that can come in and that knows Steichen's playbook, that can get the ball out quickly. I didn't think there was a realistic chance he would actually start. It looks like there is a chance that Phil Rivers might start this game. Now, I think Riley Leonard is healthy. So I very seriously doubt we'll see Phil Rivers play this entire game. I would imagine maybe we'll see some split quarterbacks, but who knows here. Braden Smith, by the way, the right tackle for the Colts, he got injured in the Jacksonville game, so he's out. Now, on paper, based on the full year numbers, you would think this is just a battle on this side of the ball. The Colts offense, 3rd in success rate, 4th in EPA per play. Seattle's defense, 4th and 2nd. But I think we all know the current version of the Colts offense is not one of the most efficient in the NFL. In fact, you look at their last 3 games, they're averaging just 18.3 points per game, 5.2 yards per play, 41% success rate. Now they have played some tough defenses. Jacksonville's playing out of this world defensively right now. Houston, one of the best defenses in the NFL. And then the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Obviously, that's not an easy game either. So they've seen some strong defenses recently, but I think we can all agree Daniel Jones injured, missing a piece on the offensive line. The Colts are not a top 5 offense anymore. So going on the road to Seattle to play what is a top 5 defense and what is a top 5 defense that's healthier. Remember, Seattle was looking like one of the best defenses in the NFL before they even got these guys back. Now Jerron Reed is back on the defensive line. Julian Love is back in the secondary. So, I mean, it's hard to find a path here to the Colts moving the ball. Obviously, we know they're going to try to run it. In terms of Phillip Rivers, I can't imagine the ball stays in his hand for more than 2 seconds. He's not going to extend any plays, and against this pass rush, he's going to be in prison. So maybe Steichen's got something up his sleeve, but as a whole, I'm not seeing much here that indicates the Colts are going to make some noise offensively. It should be a real struggle for them on the road in Seattle. Now, on the other side of the ball, it's kind of tough. Seattle's offense hasn't looked quite as Sam Darnold hasn't looked quite as impressive, is what I should say. On the season, they're 8th in success rate, 11th in EPA per play. Colts defense, 22nd and 12th. As I mentioned, Sam Darnold hasn't looked quite as sharp in the second half of the season. In his last 5 games, pass rating under 91, under 216 passing yards per game. And the Colts defense, they've done a good job against the run. Look at their last 8 games. They're allowing just 3.6 yards per carry, under 36% success rate per rush. We kind of thought the Colts run defense was going to completely fall off when Buckner got hurt, but that really wasn't the case. They had one game where they struggled against Bijan Robinson and the Falcons. That was overseas. Other than that, they've done a pretty good job against the run. So Seattle, not exactly a dangerous rushing attack anyway. I could see the Colts defense keeping the Seahawks from running the ball in this one. The problem is the Colts just don't generate enough pressure to really give me faith they can slow down Sam Darnold throwing the ball. Now, I mentioned that Sam Darnold hasn't looked quite as sharp recently, but, I mean, he played some really tough defenses. He played Houston in there. Who else did he play? Played the Rams in there. He played some of the best pass rushers in the NFL. That's certainly not the Colts. The Colts are bottom 10, bottom 12 pass rush in the NFL without Buckner, maybe slightly worse than that. So Sam Darnold still got a passer rating over 117 from a clean pocket. And with the injuries to the Colts secondary, still no Sauce Gardner, Charvarius Ward got another concussion, his 3rd concussion of the season. So I think there's a chance he might be done for the year. So their 2 best corners out as well. It's just hard to see a path to the Colts slowing down Seattle throwing the ball. So as far as betting this game, I don't know. I guess maybe an over. This opened at 46.5. It's been bet all the way down to 41.5. The Colts with an injured secondary and no pass rush. Seattle should be able to connect on some big throws over top. And maybe the Phil Rivers Colts offense is getting undervalued. People are assuming it's going to be the worst thing ever. So maybe an over at 41.5. I really don't know. Honestly, put up over 41.5, but I want to be clear about this. I have no interest in betting this game at all. Next up, we got Green Bay on the road in Denver. This one was up in 2. It's now down to 1, so maybe Denver got hit at 2. Looking at 50K limits now, Denver +1. Green Bay is on the road in Denver to play a Broncos team that's won 10 consecutive football games, 10 in a row. 10-0 in their last 10, just 5-5 against the number. They're perfect at home at Mile High this season, a perfect 6-0, 3-3 against the number. So the Denver Broncos have not lost a home game all year, and they haven't lost a football game since September. This is going to be a tough one, though. They may be at home, but they're matched up against a Green Bay offense that seems to be figuring it out. In their last 2 games against the Lions and Bears, 6.7 yards per play, over 53% success rate, 29.5 points per game. In the 4 games before that, the Packers offense wasn't looking all that great. Remember, Tucker Kraft got injured and Jordan Love was struggling a little bit. Seems like they figured it out because the Green Bay offense seems to be banging on all cylinders. And look, we know Denver has one of the best defenses in the NFL, but you look at their last 3 games, we saw Marcus Mariota moving the ball in Denver. Denver almost lost that game. 47.5% success rate in their last 3 games. We even saw Geno Smith making some throws, and then we saw Kenny Pickett come in the 4th quarter and drive up and down the field a couple times. Teams have been able to move the chains against this Broncos defense recently. Now, we know the Broncos pass rush is a concern here because Jordan Love's splits under pressure are bad. He's got a pass rating under 49 when pressured this year. So on the road in Denver, that's a concern. Although I will say Broncos pass rush, not quite as impressive as we thought. Last year, they were probably the best pass rush in the NFL. They're 8th in time to pressure, 7th in pressure rate. Still a great pass rush, but not nearly as elite as last year. Now, one area I do expect Green Bay to struggle in this one is running the ball. And I know you look at their game logs on the year, and they've been pretty consistently running the ball all season. If you look at the defenses that they've seen, Detroit's a pretty tough run defense. The Bears have struggled against the run all year. Giants' worst run defense in the NFL. The Vikings have even struggled against the run this year. The Eagles have struggled against the run this year. Carolina, Pittsburgh hasn't been all that tough up front. Arizona, Cincinnati, Dallas, Cleveland. There's an elite run defense. Washington, and then Detroit. This entire season, the only run defense they've seen that's on the level of the Denver Broncos would be Cleveland's. When they went on the road to Cleveland, they lost that game outright. They were held to 82 yards rushing, 2.7 yards per carry. So I know you look at the matchup here between Green Bay's offense and the Denver defense, and it looks like a pretty close matchup on the ground. But you take into consideration that Green Bay has seen a lot of bad run defenses. I think Denver's able to keep Green Bay from running the ball in this game. Not to mention DJ Jones is back for the Broncos. This Broncos defense is completely healthy. DJ Jones didn't play last week. He's coming back for this one. So I do think Green Bay is going to struggle to generate push. I think they're going to struggle to run the ball. The problem is in pass protection, I think they're able to give Jordan Love time to throw. This Denver pass rush hasn't been quite as elite as last year. They're still a great pass rush, but last season they were first in everything. First in pressure rate, first in time to pressure. They're 7th in pressure rate, 8th in time to pressure. We've seen quarterbacks with clean pockets to throw from against this Broncos team this year, and Jordan Love has a pass rating over 131 from a clean pocket. He's also got great numbers against the blitz. So this Denver pass rush doesn't scare me quite as much this year as it did last year. And if Jordan Love has clean pockets to throw from in this game, I just don't trust Denver in coverage. They run a lot of man coverage. Jordan Love with a 120 pass rating against man coverage. Weather's supposed to be perfect, by the way. Mid to high 50s with no wind. So if Jordan Love has clean pockets to throw from against man coverage, which he's carved up this year, Green Bay with Jaden Reed back, because remember, Jaden Reed's back now, they just have too many wide receivers to cover in man coverage. Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, Dontavian Wicks. There's just too many of them. Tucker Kraft's out, which hurts. But how are you going to cover all these guys in man coverage? So, look, Denver's pass rush is still good, but it's not quite as good as it was last year. The Green Bay offensive line has done a solid job in pass protection. I actually like the matchup for Jordan Love going on the road to Denver here. I think they'll struggle to run, but I think Jordan Love can connect on a couple big ones through the air. Now, on the other side of the ball, do we trust Denver to move the ball? On the season, they're 21st in success rate, 13th in EPA per play. Packers defense, 13th and 15th. Unfortunately for the Broncos, Ben Powers not coming back for this game. There was speculation that he might be back. He might be activated off the IR. Looks like he's going to be out one more game. He has been ruled out. And then Mike McGlinchey, their starting right tackle, he just got added to the injury report. I'm not sure the details on it, but he's listed as questionable, and he wasn't earlier in the week. So something must have happened in practice. So some concerns for the Broncos on the offensive line, and also Pat Bryant has been ruled out for this game. Now, I do think Denver is able to run the ball a little bit in this game. Running the ball in the Packers defense has not been impossible at all. In fact, in the last 7 games, they're allowing over 122 rush yards per game, 44% success rate per rush. These numbers aren't terrible, but running the ball on the Packers is possible, and Denver's been okay on the ground. So I do think Denver is able to run the ball a little bit. In terms of Bo Nix, I mean, his last 3 games, he's got a high completion percentage. An 87.7 pass rating isn't terrible. 276 passing yards per game. But against this Green Bay pass rush, I don't imagine we'll see many 7-step drops. I would imagine Sean Payton's going to go for some slow, methodical drives on the ground. And look, Denver's offensive line is good enough to generate some push and do that. So maybe Denver's able to string together some drives in this one. And also, when it comes to Denver's offense, I was talking about this on the live show, and this is a little thin. I don't know this for a fact. Maybe I'm just talking shit. It seems like Sean Payton might be doing a little bit of rope-a-dope with the play calling. He couldn't move the ball at all against the Jets, and then the first half against the Giants couldn't move the ball at all. Then in the second half, it's like, all right, let's go out and win. And then the next week, they have a huge game against Dallas. The offense looks perfect. The schemes are perfect, wide open receivers everywhere. Then they can't move the ball against Houston, can't move the ball against the Raiders. And then biggest game of the year against the Chiefs in week 11, they drive up and down the field to start the game 3 times. Play calling was perfect. So it seems like Sean Payton might be channeling some Kirby Smart, saving some good schemes for the big games. I don't know if that's accurate at all. It just seems like that this would be a big game against Green Bay. So the Broncos offense worries me a little bit. As far as betting this game, I talked about this one on the live show. I said I was leaning over. At the time, it was Green Bay minus 2.5. It's now down to 1. Looks like some Broncos money came in. So if I can get Green Bay money line at minus 110, I might do it. Now that the Packers it's pretty much a pick 'em. I think I like the Packers money line at a pick 'em more than I like the over. So you know what? Screw it. I'm going to add Green Bay money line. Give me the Packers money line in this one. Next up, we got Carolina on the road at New Orleans. This one was at 2.5, and it looks like when they upped the limits to 30K, they got hit on the Carolina side. Pinnacle's now got it up at 3. We're at 50K limits, and if you take a look at Juice Reel, I was trying to get an idea if people were buying back on the Saints at 3. So you can see 2.5 or lower, 90% of the most profitable bettors on the app on the Carolina side, 80% of the worst bettors on the app also on the Carolina side. When I up it to 3, 64% of the most profitable bettors on the app still taking the Carolina side. Actually, 73% of the worst confirmed bettors on the app are actually seem to be buying back on the Saints side. So Carolina on the road in New Orleans. The Panthers are currently a half game up on the Bucs because Tampa lost to the Falcons the other night. I'm not sure of the implications here. Obviously, Carolina still plays the Bucs twice. So those 2 teams have to square off for the division 2 out of the next 3 weeks after this. I'm not sure if the Panthers win, they'll be a game up, but I'm not sure the implications there. Carolina still plays Seattle, I'm pretty sure, too. So I'm really not sure the division implications. Obviously, this is a huge game. Panthers, Bucs battling it out for the division. Saints looking to play spoiler. Again, they were just in the spoiler role last week, and they handled their business. They went into Tampa, beat them 24-20. Carolina has had their problems with this Saints team. Since Bryce Young became the quarterback of the Panthers, they're 1-4 against the Saints, 1-3-1 against the spread. In fact, Bryce Young has never won a football game in this building. He's never won here in the Well, let me rephrase. He's never won a game in the Superdome as a member of the Carolina Panthers. Not sure if he played here at Alabama, maybe a bowl game or whatever. But yeah, he's never won a football game in the Superdome against the Saints as the quarterback of the Panthers, and that includes the game earlier this year. Well, this one obviously wasn't in the Super Bowl, in the Superdome, but back in Week 10, we saw the Saints team go on the road to Carolina, handle the Panthers. The Panthers offense couldn't do anything in that game. The final score was 17-7. Now, Carolina's offense is actually in good shape for this one. Cade Mays is back at center, which is huge. Now, they're still a mess at right guard. Robert Hunt's been out all year. Zavala, Brady Christensen, those would be their second and third guards. They're all out as well. But because Cade Mays is back at center, that means Austin Corbett can now slide over and start at right guard. Austin Corbett had been playing center because Cade Mays was out. So I know it looks like a mess here at right guard, but Austin Corbett's going to start at right guard. This Panthers offensive line is actually in good shape, and they're in good shape everywhere else. All their wide receivers are healthy. They're healthy at running back with the exception of Brooks. The tight end, Sanders, was banged up earlier in the year. This Panthers offense is in great shape. They're matched up against the Saints defense that's also in pretty good shape. They might even be getting Justin Reed back from injury. That's not confirmed. He's listed as questionable. Other than that, this Saints defense is in good shape as well. The problem when it comes to betting on this Carolina Panthers team, specifically the offense, and this is why I haven't bet a ton of Carolina games this year, especially recently, the data points are just everywhere with this unit. I mean, we just talked about the Week 10 game against the Saints. They were held to 4.1 yards per play, 7 points in the game. That was at home against the Saints defense. Then last week, with injuries on the offensive line, they were in worse shape. Well, maybe not worse shape, but they had key injuries on the offensive line. Week 13, they play the Rams, one of the best defenses in the NFL. 6.6 yards per play, and they hang 31 and beat them outright. The data points for this Panthers offense are just all over the place. So when we look at this matchup between the Panthers offense and the Saints defense, I'm really not sure. Carolina on the season is 15th in success rate, 24th in EPA per play. Saints defense 17th and 11th. Now, the Saints don't generate a ton of pressure. They're 26th in pressure rate, 31st in time to pressure. So Bryce Young should have some clean pockets to work with in this one. I mean, the Saints blitz a lot, and he struggled against the blitz, though. That was also the case in Week 10, though, and he couldn't do anything. The Panthers offense really struggled in that game back in Week 10. The matchup on this side of the ball, the Saints are pretty tough against the run. Carolina likes to run the ball, but their run game hasn't looked as good. They weren't able to run the ball on the Saints a few weeks ago. I really don't know what to expect as far as the Carolina offense against the Saints defense. The Saints defense looks pretty good. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina's offense bounces back and they have a successful game. I also wouldn't be surprised if they can't do anything in this one, just like in Week 10. So the matchup on that side of the ball is quite the wild card. And honestly, it's kind of the same thing on the other side of the ball. The Saints offensively are 27th in success rate, 29th in EPA per play. Panthers defense 15th and 26th. This Saints offense is in better shape, though, with getting Fuaga back at right tackle. Obviously, there's still no McCoy, their star center. He's out for the year. Also, Kamara is not going to play in this game. But outside of McCoy and Kamara, they're in pretty good shape here. The receivers are healthy. Tyler Shuck showing signs of life, I guess, with a somewhat healthy offensive line in front of them. And just like the Saints, Carolina is a defense that struggles to generate pressure. They're actually dead last in the NFL in pressure rate. So Tyler Shuck, just like Bryce Young, should have clean pockets to throw from. He should be in a position to make some plays in this one. And we already saw it. Back in that Week 10 game when the Saints beat Carolina in Carolina 17-7, Tyler Shuck broke the Saints franchise record. 282 yards was the most ever by a rookie quarterback in Saints history. So that's what happened last time Tyler Shuck played Carolina. He played great. It was by far his best game as an NFL quarterback. So I don't know. And I mean, are the Saints able to run the ball in this game against Carolina? At first glance, you look at Carolina's recent games against the run, and you might think, hey, they might be able to give Tyler Shuck some run support in this game. Carolina's defense started off so strong against the run. Through the first 7 games, they were a top 5 defense in the NFL against the run. It's completely fallen off. In their last 6 games, they're allowing 5.1 yards per carry, 52.9% success rate per rush, over 150 rushing yards per game. But here's the thing. A, the Saints can't run the ball on anybody. And B, this Panthers defense is in better shape in this game than they have been in several weeks. Christian Roseboom and Trevin Wallace both on the field at the same time. That's the first time that's happened in a while. That's 2 of their main tacklers there. There are 2 linebackers in the middle. Trayvon Moehrig, the safety, he was suspended. He's now back. J.C. Horn didn't play in the Rams game last week or 2 weeks ago, whenever that was. He is now back as well. So this Panthers defense, this is the healthiest it's been in a while. So even though the Panthers defense, they've really struggled against the run and they really haven't looked great recently, and even though Tyler Shuck kind of went off against them a few weeks ago, I actually think the Panthers defense can play much better in this one. But is that enough for me to lay 2.5 on the road? I think the answer is no. I honestly think the number's a little bit too big. Saints are showing signs of life. I don't think the Panthers are particularly good. I'd probably make the game 1, so I guess at 2.5, I would lean towards the Saints. I would probably bet the Saints if I could get a cheap 3, maybe a Saints plus 3 minus 105 or something. I'd pull the trigger on it, but this is a really tough one. I could see the Panthers looking great. I also could see the Saints beating them outright, just like we saw them beat the Bucs outright last week. So, yeah, I really don't know what to expect in this one. I'll say Saints plus 2.5 for the video. I agree with the movement. They bet it up from 39.5 to 40.5. I do think it goes over as well in the Superdome. So Saints plus 2.5 and over for the video, but I don't have a bet on this game. Next up, we got the Lions on the road to play the Rams. This one was at 4.5, got all the way up to 6.5 before we finally saw the Lions get hit. Looks like it's back down to 6. We're at 50K limits. Take a look at Juice Reel. If you look at anything 5.5 or lower, 67% of the confirmed the best bettors on Juice Reel are on the Rams side. 64% of the worst bettors on the app are also on the Rams side. If I up it to 6.5, this is where the action seems to be coming in on the Detroit side. 76% of the confirmed best bettors on the app taking Detroit at 6 or higher. All right, Detroit's on the road in SoFi to play the Rams. I've talked about this a few times this year. We've seen Dan Campbell play these tough road games a little bit differently, running the ball, slowing the game down, killing the clock. We've seen that in a few of these tough road games. So you look at the Lions, they're 23rd in pace so far this year. They've been slightly slower in their road games, and even slower than that in their tougher road games. And obviously this is a huge game on the road against the Rams. In fact, the Rams here, they're the only team in the NFC that can clinch a playoff spot today. The Rams clinch a playoff spot with a win here against the Lions. So I would imagine we're going to see Detroit try to run the football here, keep Matt Stafford on the sideline. Detroit's dealing with injuries in the secondary. I would imagine they want to hold on to the football as long as possible. And like I said, we've seen Dan Campbell do that exact thing in a couple different instances this year. Now, you might look at the Rams' defensive numbers on the year. 6th in success rate per rush, 3rd in EPA per rush. And you might be thinking, well, Kyle, I don't think the Lions can run the ball on this Rams defense. And honestly, that's fair. This Lions offensive line is in much better shape than it was a couple weeks ago. Remember when, I think it was the Thanksgiving game, where every single member of the Lions offensive line was either questionable or out? They're in much better shape. Mahogany not coming back just yet, but the guy that has been starting there, I think he's going to play. Taylor Decker's been questionable every single game for 2 months, so I don't have any reason to believe he doesn't play. Rest of the offensive line is good to go here. And look, when it comes to this Rams defense against the run, they've been great. Look at their last 6 games, 31.5% success rate per rush is excellent. I got to ask, though, when's the last time the Rams have seen an offense that can actually run the ball? The Saints, the 49ers, that's a solid one. The 49ers were moving the ball on the Rams in that game. The Seahawks don't run the ball. The Bucs a little bit. That was before Bucky Irving came back. The Panthers, the Cardinals. I mean, we do have to acknowledge that in terms of the Rams' run defense, they have seen a bit of a fortunate schedule. Haven't seen a ton of tough rushing attacks here, which the Lions definitely are. So I think Dan Campbell believes this Rams defensive front seven is soft, and I think they're going to come in here looking to run the ball, looking to keep Matt Stafford on the sideline. I doubt we're going to see a ton of 7-step drops here from Jared Goff against this Rams pass rush. They generate a ton of pressure without blitzing. We know Jared Goff under pressure is not exactly the nicest looking splits. He's got a 63 passer rating when pressured so far this year. So I doubt we'll see Jared Goff in a ton of 7-step drops except for play action. Yeah, I would imagine we're going to see Dan Campbell run the ball, and I honestly think he can have some success with it. I mean, this Rams defense is too good. He's not going to just steamroll the Rams, but I do think they can move the chains and at least play the field position battle by running the ball in this game. It's the other side of the ball. This is where it's really tough to make a play on the Lions. The Rams on paper have the most efficient offense in the NFL. They're 1st in success rate, 2nd in EPA per play. Now, the Lions defense as a whole has been pretty solid this year. They're 7th and 13th. And I honestly do think they're able to limit the Rams on the ground. But in terms of the matchup for Matt Stafford, I mean, the Lions pass rush hasn't really scared anybody all year. They're just 11th in pressure rate, 28th in time to pressure. We know Matt Stafford from a clean pocket. He's always one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when you give him a clean pocket. And are the Lions going to try to go into SoFi and run man coverage against Matt Stafford? Got a 126-1 passer rating against man coverage this year. Nobody runs more man coverage than the Lions so far this year. Almost 43% their defensive snaps. So they're going into They're going into SoFi indoors without much of a pass rush and trying to run man coverage against Matt Stafford. Not a great look. And it actually gets worse than that because their secondary's kind of smoked. No Terrion Arnold, no Kirby Joseph, no Brian Branch for this one. So I'm a little worried about the Lions defense. You might be wondering, okay, Kyle, well, why are you on the under then? Spoiler, I'm on the under 55.5. Take a look at the Dallas game last week. The Cowboys scored 30 points on the Lions in this game, in that game that was at Ford Field. I actually think the Rams are going to score 30 points on the Lions just like the Cowboys did. The difference, in my opinion, is going to be Detroit's offensive game plan. In Dallas, they were at home at Ford Field against a defense they didn't think was great. I think Dan Campbell was more than willing to go into a shootout against Dallas at home. On the road in SoFi against Matt Stafford and this Rams offense with the secondary in the condition it's in, I think Dan Campbell wants to play a low-scoring game here. I think he's going to run the ball, try to keep Matt Stafford on the sideline, and I think it's going to stay under the total. I do think the Rams can score 30 just like Dallas did, but I don't think Detroit's going to score anywhere near 44 points against the Rams defense. So final score, 31-19 Rams. I would lean Rams on a side as well. But I'm on the under in this one, 55.5. I did bet this. Next up, we got Tennessee on the road at San Francisco. This one's at 13. It dropped to 12.5 briefly at 30K limits, but it looks like it got hit right back up to 13. We're at 50K limits, still looking at 13 for the most part. There are 12.5s out there if you look. This is Pinnacle sitting at 13. You take a look at Juice Reel for this one. Mostly everyone's thinking San Francisco. Profitable bettors, terrible bettors. 74% of the best bettors on the app, 75% of the worst bettors on the app taking San Francisco. The Tennessee Titans are on the road in San Francisco against the 49ers offense that I was talking about this. They seem to be coming together on the offensive side of the ball. Let's not let one game in Cleveland in shitty weather. 4.2 yards per play, 37.1% success rate. They were on the road in Cleveland in wet rain, snow, freezing weather. It was a nasty game. Let's not let that one game distract us from the fact that the 4 games before that, the 49ers were averaging over 30 points per game, 6 yards per play, over 54% success rate. San Francisco's offense looked like it was coming around before that Cleveland game. They're coming into this one in good shape. It looks like Christian McCaffrey's going to play. By the way, I know he's on the injury report listed as questionable, but judging from everything I'm reading, looks like Christian McCaffrey's fine and he's going to play in this game. Offensive line did lose Ben Barch, but he's missed so much time this year. That's not exactly a new injury. So in terms of injuries, the 49ers offense is in pretty good shape here. On the season, they're 4th in success rate, 10th in EPA per play. Tennessee's defense, 19th and 27th. We're giving Kyle Shanahan 2 weeks to prepare for a home game against this Titans defense. This is a Titans secondary that just can't seem to cover anybody. Their front seven really isn't bad. I don't think their run defense is necessarily bad. And honestly, their pass rush isn't bad either. But their secondary, in the last 7 games, they're allowing 8.5 yards per pass attempt at over 111 average opponent passer rating, this Titans defense. And if you isolate it to just their last 2 games, they played Trevor Lawrence and Shedeur Sanders. By the way, the Shedeur Sanders game was in terrible weather. And in those last 2 games, they allowed over 296 passing yards per game, 8.6 yards per attempt, a 104.6 average passer rating. Against Trevor Lawrence and Shedeur Sanders, one of the games in bad weather. Like I said, the secondary can't seem to cover anybody. They're missing both their corners, Snead and Armour Davis. Snead's been out all year. Yeah, Kyle Shanahan with 2 weeks to prepare at home for the Titans secondary. I would imagine there's going to be a wide open receiver on every single snap here. So yes, I expect San Francisco to have a successful offensive game here. Now, when we get to the other side of the ball, though, this is where I actually think the Titans can surprise us. Now, on the year, they're 31st in success rate, 32nd in EPA per play. 49ers defense, 27th and 24th. So this 49ers defense hasn't been good at all this year. They can't stop the run. They can't pressure the passer. We'll get into the 49ers defense in a second. But let's start with Tennessee's offense. First of all, they might be getting Cushenberry back. I'm a little worried about Zeitler. Looks like there's a chance he doesn't play. I think Dan Moore Jr. is going to play. He's been listed as questionable. He was listed as questionable last week as well and ended up playing. So I think Dan Moore is going to play, and I think Cushenberry's back at center. He just missed the Cleveland game. A little worried about Zeitler. But let's look at the Titans' recent body of work. And this is actually crazy. Look at Cam Ward's last 5 games. What a gauntlet. Look at this schedule. The easiest defense, the worst defense Cam Ward has seen in the last 5 games is the Chargers. Chargers defense looks great right now, and that's the worst defense he's seen. His last 4 games, Houston, Seattle, Jacksonville's defense is playing out of this world, and Cleveland in Cleveland in nasty weather. Houston, Seattle, Jacksonville, Cleveland, you can make an argument that's 4 of the top 6 defenses in the NFL right now. I mean, what a gauntlet. And then the Chargers before that. Can we cut this guy a little bit of slack? If you rewind back to the last 2 times he didn't see top 10 defenses, New England and Indianapolis, he was showing signs of improvement. He had a pass rating over 84 in those 2 games. And by the way, New England and Indianapolis, that's a 11-2 football team and then a fringe playoff team before Daniel Jones got hurt. So even these aren't easy games. This dude's been through the absolute gauntlet, and he was showing signs of improvement before he just saw those crazy elite defenses. And by the way, the 49ers defense, it's kind of the opposite. If you look at their last 5 games, I mean, the Giants, the Rams obviously are great. The Cardinals, the Panthers, the Browns, those are the offenses the 49ers have seen. They still can't get off the field. A success rate over 51%, 6 yards per play against some really bad offenses. This 49ers defense is not in good shape right now. Bethune is not coming back at linebacker. So no Bethune, no Fred Warner. Obviously, he's out for the year. 2 of their main linebackers there, 2 of their main tacklers there. No Bosa, another one of their edge rushers is out. They can't pressure the passer. I don't think this 49ers defense is very good. And when you take a look at the entire Titans schedule this year, you kind of feel bad for Cam Ward. Serious question. Here's the Titans schedule this year. How many non-playoff teams has Cam Ward played this year? How many bad teams has Cam Ward played? At Denver, they're 11-2. The Rams, one of the best teams in the NFC. In fact, I believe they're the best team in the NFC. The Colts, especially back then, were elite. At Houston, playoff team. Arizona, there's a bad team. They won that game. 22-21, they won that game outright. Then they played the Raiders. There's another bad team, so we got 2. Arizona and Raiders, 2 bad teams. After that, New England, they're 11-2. The Colts again in Indianapolis before the Daniel Jones injury. Chargers, playoff team. Houston, playoff team. Seattle, playoff team. Jacksonville, playoff team. And then you have Cleveland in Cleveland, who isn't a good team. Tough place to go play. They won that game, 31-29. So when it comes to Cam Ward, it's been a rough season. Can we at least acknowledge that this schedule is actually unfair? Every single game is against a playoff team. In fact, you could say the only 3 times we've seen Cam Ward not play a playoff team, he's 2-1 in those games at Cleveland, at Arizona, and at Las Vegas. None of them were at home, by the way. This dude's been through the gauntlet in terms of the schedule. The 49ers defense is his easiest competition in multiple months since, I guess, Arizona back on October 5th. That's probably the last time that Cam Ward saw a defense that's somewhat comparable to the 49ers defense, honestly. So I think Cam Ward's going to have run support. I think he's going to have clean pockets to throw from. Going from nasty weather, Cleveland's pass rush, to 49ers who can't pressure the passer with run support. I think the Titans are going to score points right back. I bet this over 44.5. I can't believe it's still sitting at 44.5. I'm a little worried that no one's betting this up. I think it should be 48.5, honestly. So I'm missing something. I like this over. I bet it over 44.5. Clearly, the market doesn't agree with me. I'm hoping to wake up before kickoff and see this up at 47 or something, but not looking like it. Over 44.5, I did bet this. Last up, we got Sunday Night Football. Minnesota on the road at Dallas. This one opened up at 6.5. Looks like the Minnesota side got hit at 20K limits. It went down to 5.5. Did briefly come back up to 6. Looks like Minnesota got hit again. 50K limits, we're looking at 5.5. Take a look at Juice Reel. Pretty split here in terms of the most profitable bettors on the app. 55% taking Dallas, 45% taking Minnesota. In terms of the worst confirmed bettors on the app, 67% taking Dallas, 33% taking Minnesota. So I'm actually out of time. I'll be real quick with this one. I took the under here, 48.5, but it's probably one of my least favorite bets of the day. I bet under 48.5 because I thought it would close at 47.5. At the moment, it's looking like I was right. We'll see. I think we're going to see a lot of running the football in this game. Minnesota's offensive line is finally healthy. I doubt they want J.J. McCarthy to get into a shootout here at Jerry World against Dak Prescott. So I would imagine we're going to see Minnesota running the ball. That's kind of been the only thing that's working for their offense. So I think we're going to see the Vikings running the ball. And I actually think we're going to see Dallas running the ball as well. Minnesota's defense, Brian Flores will get to you before those downfield routes develop. And that's what we've seen the Cowboys do a lot of, those big explosive plays through the air. But the Cowboys can run the ball. So, and Minnesota has been susceptible to the run at times this year. So there's no Tyler Guyton at left tackle. I don't think the Cowboys want to mess around with those blitz packages and drop Dak Prescott the pass and have him stand in the pocket against those blitzes. So they should be able to run the ball. The Cowboys offensive line has been great at generating push. Actually think we're going to see a lot of running the ball, and I think Minnesota can move the chains and keep the Cowboys offense on the sideline for a chunk of this game. So yeah, I'm on the under 48.5 here, but the number's where I think it is now. I wouldn't bet it at 47.5. Thanks for watching. Live shows at midnight Eastern time as always. If you're able to make it, would love to see you in the comments. All my stuff you can find on Juice Reel or the website. If you sign up to either, it comes with access to the Discord if you're interested in that. Let's have ourselves a great Sunday. Please remember to bet responsibly. See you all tomorrow.